Good morning, family. I greet you all in the marvelous name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Do you know what today is? This is the day that the Lord hath made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Weren't you blessed? I know I was, by the musical inspiration of the Reverend Kendall Turner, who serves as our psalmist. I was tremendously blessed, and I pray that you were as well. She is a gift to the body of Christ, and I thank her for all that she has done already to make this HealthNUT impactful. My brothers and sisters, I'd like to welcome you to the HealthNUT 2021 virtual conference, where we are pulling together all communities to talk about health disparities, to encourage you and empower you to live healthy and to promote wellness. This conference was inspired by the visionary genius of my friend and dear brother, Mr. Adrian Howard, who serves as the chair of the COVID-19 Food Relief Program of Transformation African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, which is located in the first state of Delaware, in the city of Dover. Since the beginning of the coronavirus 19 pandemic, there has been so many families that are hungry. People have been out of jobs, and it has been difficult to get ahead. I'm grateful that Transformation African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church heard the clarion call and answered it by forming this committee, where this committee was empowered to provide food to 3 to 4 families weekly. Yes, for 18 months, we've been feeding families throughout the state of Delaware. And it's been through in-kind donations, as well as partnership with the Feed the Children program and the Food Bank of Delaware. We're able to meet needs, but as we meet those needs, the needs continue to grow. And as we do our best to help our dear brothers and sisters, I gotta tell you that the need is great and our resources are limited. With your help, we will be able to sustain and help many more families. And so we pray that the Lord will touch your heart. This is a free conference, but we're hoping that you would give generously to this effort so that we can be more of a blessing to the families of Delaware and even beyond. My brothers and sisters, I've heard the old adage that if you give a man a fish, he can eat for a day. However, if you teach that man how to fish, he will eat for a lifetime. We have been feeding families, but now we need to teach people how to feed themselves. And so with your generous donations, we will be able to provide educational resources where we teach financial stewardship. We teach money management. We teach how people can eat nutritious meals, not the meals that will clog up your arteries and cause heart attack, but meals that will provide nutritious value and enhance wellness of our people. Health and wellness has taken center stage of everyone's community. It doesn't matter if you're Black, brown, or white. Health and wellness is priority because you can have all the money in the world, but you still can get sick. And if you have a defective immune system or a compromised immune system, you are more susceptible to receiving disease, illness. And so let's talk about healthy eating. Let's talk about best practices in this HealthNUT conference. And I pray that you will be able to lend your ear to hear some leading voices in the medical industry. We have a wonderful group of individuals who are going to share best practices. They're going to share statistics. They're also going to share some insight as to what we can do to become healthier. I'm pleased that the Dr. Sandra Gatson, General of Nephrology of Chicago, Illinois. She's also the former missionary president of the Women's Home and Overseas Missionary Society of the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. She's going to talk about some issues concerning diabetes. We also have Miss Brittany Whitworth and Monica Vaquez. They are certified health coaches who will tell us about some best practices and what we can do to eat healthier, as well as share with us their business. And you definitely want to hear about the business that they have to offer. We also have Dr. Velma Scantleberry. She is professor of surgery and a transplant surgeon. She is a historical figure. Black women rock. I'm telling you, she is phenomenal and doing a wonderful job here in the state of Delaware and beyond. But not only do we have Dr. Velma Scantleberry, but we also have Dr. Joan Coker, who is a specialist in the ear, nose, and throat of Delaware. And so she's going to share as well. We have Miss Joy Williamson Foster, who is a registered nurse, and she has some insight that she wants to share with us in regards to vitamins and water. And we also have Miss Patricia Riddell, who's going to talk about cancer. She's representing Salisbury, Maryland. Not only that, but we have Dr. Calvin Wilson, and we also have Mr. David Morris, who's the executive director of the Delaware American Heart Association, and Mr. Jason Playa, the director of the American Cancer Society Incorporated. I'm telling you, we have some stellar individuals who are sharing in this HealthNUT. And so I need you to grab your pencil, grab your pad, and write down some notes. They'll be sharing some very good information. And we pray that you will be empowered as you listen to medical professionals. It is my lot that I would introduce the Right Reverend W. Darren Moore, who is a preacher par excellence. He is one who loves the Lord and is a champion for justice and civil rights. He's one that I admire. because of his tenacity to do what is right and to live by the standard set by Jesus, our Lord and Savior. Bishop Moore is a family man. He's well educated, and he serves as the presiding prelate of the Mid-Atlantic Episcopal District, which comprises of Allegheny, Philadelphia areas, Pennsylvania, throughout Harrisburg, as well as the Philadelphia-Baltimore Annual Conference, Washington, D.C., Virginia, as well as East Tennessee. And he also serves in St. Vincent and Barbados. He covers a large area, and he trains his pastors to do as he has done and as he does, which is meet the needs of the community. He believes that it is our outreach that validates our upreach. And I agree. I agree with Bishop Moore. And so today he's going to provide us some greetings. And I ask that you would receive him at this time.
Greetings, beloved. In the third epistle of John, chapter 1, verse 2, the Bible says, "Beloved, I pray that all may go well with you and that you may be in good health, just as it is well with your soul." Wow, that's my prayer for you as well. The text is teaching us the relatedness between being healthy in body, mind, and spirit. The church has always emphasized a healthy spirituality. However, not only have we often failed to make physical health a priority, quite frankly, with some of our food functions, we have actually contributed in some measure to a less than healthy lifestyle for many of our members. So I want to congratulate the outstanding sponsors, including the Reverend Dr. Reginald Chandler Sr., for this important virtual conference entitled Eat Better, Live Healthier. Let me say that again. Eat better, live healthier. A dear friend of mine, or at least I thought he was a friend, when he saw the social media posting about this conference, immediately texted me and asked, how could they invite you to speak at a healthy eating conference? He actually knows of my struggle with food choices throughout my life and the continuing battle I have to become the healthiest person possible. My response to my friend was to remind him that the Apostle Paul wrote more than half of the New Testament, giving us the most complete teaching on living right and being holy. Yet, the Apostle Paul called himself the chief among sinners. The truth is that often it's the ones of us who have had the greatest struggles who then are able to give the most authentic testimonies. So I greet you this morning, not as someone who has a great physique, not as one who is in the gym daily, not even as one who always makes the right food choices. I greet you rather today as a sinner who is on this journey towards better health, one day, one step, one meal, one decision at a time. My wife and I are blessed to have 5 amazing grandchildren who bring us so much joy. Last fall, while playing with 3 of them, I became so winded that I had to sit down on the sofa. My grandson begged me to get up and keep playing with him. Come on, Papa, let's play. But I was just too exhausted. It occurred to me at that moment that getting older is not an option. That's inevitable. As long as you live, you're going to get older. But I decided I could make the right choices now to help me enjoy more quality time with my grandchildren. It's not whether I would get older, it's how will I get older. So 1 year later, I am thrilled to report to you that I've lost 30 pounds. My A1C levels have decreased significantly. My blood pressure is better than it was 10 years ago. Now, let me be perfectly clear. I don't want anybody to get it twisted. I have a long way to go before I'm ready to be a model for the next cover of Men's Health magazine. Seriously, I am not suggesting that I have arrived, but I am better. I focused on reducing 3 S words in my life. Now, as a Christian, sin should always be at the top of that list, but there are 3 other S words, 3 other S words that I focused on reducing. 1 is stress, 2 is sitting, and 3 is sugar. The medical experts will tell you that sugar causes so many health challenges and is associated not only with increased risks of diabetes, high blood pressure, inflammation, obesity, but it is even related to an increased risk for heart attack and stroke. Also, experts will tell you that eating sugar releases opioids and dopamine in our brains, creating some of the pleasure sensations and addictive behaviors that are similar, having some of the same effects that drugs will have. In that case, let me confess that for most of my life, I've been addicted to ice cream, chocolate cake, Reese's peanut butter cups, and sweet potato pie. In fact, when you also consider that I used to crave something sweet after every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, not to mention sneaking in to the food pantries late at night, I was actually experiencing an overdose of sugar. For the past year, I have made enormous strides in reducing my sugar intake. I walk a few miles at least 3 days a week, and I attempt to manage and guard my time to ensure that I can get 7 hours of sleep each night. Reducing, although not eliminating, those 3 S words, stress, sitting, and sugar, for me, is making progress. I believe it can be progress for you too. So like the Apostle Paul, I can say, not that I have already attained or am already perfected, but I press towards the goal for the prize of the high calling in Christ Jesus. But not only a high calling spiritually, but the call to good health in Christ Jesus. So, beloved, during these sessions, listen well, learn well, and then let's all press to live well. God bless you. Have a great conference. Blessing and love always.
Grace and peace unto you. I greet you all in the marvelous name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Good morning, family. All throughout the world, it's a blessing to be with you on this beautiful day, the Lord's Day. And I ask that you would join me in a prayer. Heavenly Father, teach us, guide us, empower us. In Jesus' name, amen. It is my distinguished privilege and pleasure to introduce the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Delaware. Bethany How-Long is widely recognized as a leader who uses her skill to bring people together, build consensus, and help find common sense solutions to issues and problems facing Delaware families and communities. Bethany has led the fight to make Delaware stronger and healthier. And as Lieutenant Governor, she is a leading voice behind the creation of Behavioral Health Consortium. And as chair, she has convened parents, teachers, law enforcement, health professionals, lawmakers, and community members who have been affected by mental health and addiction. As a trained nurse, health scientist, and university professor, Bethany understands the connection between physical and emotional wellness, which led her to launch the Lieutenant Governor's Challenge 2.0 in 2018 by shining a bright light on what other leaders are doing in our state to improve health and wellness. She is helping to inspire others to live healthier lives. In 2018, Governor Carney tapped Bethany to chair the Governor's Complete Count Commission. And as chair, she has convened the leaders from all over Delaware to make sure everyone, including those hardest to count, are included. Bethany has been a member of the University of Delaware nursing faculty now for more than 20 years. She also holds a distinguished record at the University of Delaware's, and as she is a leading nurse and leading faculty at the University of Delaware to receive the University-wide Excellence in Teaching Award, and is currently a professor of nursing and joint faculty in the urban affairs. I'm telling you, Bethany How Long is top notch. And she has a message that she's going to share with us from her heart as it relates to the COVID-19 hesitancy and what we can do in order to encourage all races, all ethnicities, but especially those in the Black and brown communities to get vaccinated. And so I'm so delighted. We are privileged to have such a wonderful woman of God, a woman of faith, who is serious about making a difference in people's lives. I ask that you would receive her now as she comes to share in her own way. Let us receive the Lieutenant Governor, Bethany How Long of Delaware.
Well, good morning. What an introduction. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Reverend Chandler. I cannot thank you enough, and to the many planners and co-hosts today in the Transformational IME Church, and to my good friend, our Kent County Coalition leader, who I know at some point behind the scenes and working with you in the community on the street, Reverend Rita Page, who's really been a phenomenal leader with you. I am delighted anytime I can come and talk among community leaders and community groups about healthcare. And I cannot say enough, I was so impressed and smiling when we just heard from our incredible Reverend, and he talked about his S's. And being the daughter of a pastor, I found it quite interesting that we started with the S of sin, but then including the other S's. And I'll talk a little bit about a couple more S's I'll probably want to add to his list. But I am delighted to be here for a few minutes. I understand I have around, 5-10 minutes to talk to you, not only about the incredible challenge that you all have met this past 18 months with COVID, but also what are we going to do about your overall well-being that we in the community together, what are things we can tackle as leaders, as residents here in Delaware with our physical health, and as Dr. Reverend Chandler indicated, our emotional well-being, which I think has been greatly impacted over the past year from the stress, the social isolation, and issues of persons turning to substances. So let's get started. A little bit of a conversation. I didn't want to come with slides like a professor this morning. I indicated to Reverend that I wanted to just kind of talk from my heart and to first acknowledge that you have a phenomenal group of leaders coming to talk to you today. And I am not going to pretend to be Dr. Joan Coker or Dr. Scantlebury in no way or fashion. They can speak it to you directly from their hearts as physicians, what they have observed, and to help break down some of the myths of COVID. But I, as a leader, would like to share with you how incredibly challenging, not only because we had to embark on this pandemic during a presidential election and some of the challenges we have faced in messaging and outreach, but breaking down some of the myths. And thanks to you all, because your zealous work joining in, whether my office's faith leaders calls or Black leaders calls, you become part of a coalition. And Reverend Chandler, Reverend Page, and to the others, if you're not familiar, join our Kent County Coalition or the Sussex Coalition if you happen to be in Sussex, or the Wilmington COVID Coalition. We need your voice. We need your perspective, not only to stay well yourself, but in the community. Yes, we have administered, and I too, as a nurse, as indicated, have had the privilege of being on the street, being at community events, churches, and community efforts to vaccinate. A lot of problems around the vaccine that started was the fact this word called warp speed. I don't know why we ever use that language. COVID's been around. The virus has been studied for almost 2 decades, a long period of time, why it's called COVID-19. We in America really take our time to get things right. The virus has been studied. You don't get the virus from the vaccine. And you all know these things. You're aware that we don't affect fertility. We recognize that we're not being experimented on. But all these myths we've had to break down. And thanks to you, we have been able to get at least 1 dose into 43% of Black Delawareans. Now, we got to do better. Right now, we're sitting around 52% of 1 shot in Caucasian, and then the number with our Latino and Brown communities lower into the 30s. Good news, Delaware overall, we have reached President Biden's goal of at least getting over 75%, but we've got to do better. So if you're interested, you can always visit our Delaware Public Health website, de.gov/coronavirus. Or the healthy communities. You can check out and see how your own community is doing as far as performance, not only with the COVID vaccine, but health indicators. So for those of you today who are championing, and thank you to the coaches and to the leaders who are coming on to talk to us about our diet, about our stress, about our lifestyle, it really does matter. And as Reverend Chandler said, never ever has public health been such an important topic. So I wanted you to walk away today, not only knowing the challenges around COVID, but the thank yous to the efforts that you're doing. If you haven't yet had an opportunity to partner with any of the leaders here, do so. We are happy to bring to the community or refer you where to go for COVID testing, because if you're not vaccinated, you really want to make sure you get frequent COVID tests. And even if you are vaccinated, you should still be getting tested. Following your work site directions, many of them sitting in a cubicle by yourself, the door closed, perhaps you don't need the mask. We want to make sure folks are wearing their mask, keeping their distance, really important. Today, folks, we have almost 40 persons in ICUs in Delaware on ventilators. Our hospital bed trends have increased. We have gone from our highest numbers now back to February. Here we are, September. It is real. And the majority, and let's hear this, the majority of persons who are sick in our hospitals are unvaccinated. The vaccine is the one opportunity for which we can get well. Whether we had our polio shots, whether we get our children vaccinated for measles, mumps, and rubella, the same opportunity here. And there's not a chip that follows you. It doesn't address your fertility, all of those things. Later, you're going to hear from Drs. Coker and Scantlebury and others who are probably going to get into a little more on the myths. But I just wanted to share with you the good news. Coming again, that this is a faith-based session, there is good news and there is good hope. And I want to channel this morning Matthew 25, the verses, I think 38 to 40, where we talk about coming together. And when we're hungry, giving food and giving clothes and shelter to others. And that's what Delaware has been about during these past 18 months. But even prior, when I was in the House and Senate, many of you were terrific and have collaborated and worked with our offices, whether addressing equity, which we have to. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining today, because the equity issues, you have this wonderful opportunity now to make sure to elevate, to shine a light on the challenges, not only in the Black and Brown community, but all of our communities, particularly communities perhaps challenged with housing, unemployment, socioeconomic challenges. And what happens in those communities? Oftentimes, we don't have access to healthy food. We have food deserts, food insecurity. I'm sure you're going to hear from more experts, better than myself, around some of these challenges. But we in Delaware are investing. There's hope. If you are interested, you can dial 211 to find out where are different resources in the community around particular diseases. The last speaker talked about issues of stress, sugar, right? He also talked about, sleep and sitting. So I added in the sleep factor as an S. And one item that didn't get mentioned is salt, right? You'll be talking a lot today about issues around health, heart health in particular, high blood pressure. Exercise is important, sleep is important, monitoring our diet and weight, and also our salt consumption, looking at high packaging. A lot of times it's easier to grab that bag of chips. You're going to hear from folks. We have incredible programs that are free for all of you around nutrition, and in particular diabetes. Diabetes disproportionately affects brown and Black communities. Really important. Nobody has to have an amputation. Nobody should become blind from diabetes. We have remarkable programs. Also, cancer in our state. I've had the privilege of serving on the Cancer Consortium, and part of my Lieutenant Governor's Challenge 2.0 is addressing nutrition and cancer and screening. And I highly encourage you to visit not only the Division of Public Health, but the many nonprofits that are here today who will provide access to free screening, whether it's mammograms, colorectal, colonoscopies. We can provide all of that and do it in a safe, comfortable environment. So consider making sure that you're having your screenings. During COVID, a lot of people put off going to their doctor and being seen. Even though we have the Delta surge, the doctor's offices, nurse practitioners are really safe now. We have scheduled separate appointments. The rooms are clean. It is safe to come back to the offices. Do that. Get screened. Be seen. Keep an eye on that on the way. In addition to cancer and diabetes and lung issues, we really have some phenomenal programs if you're wanting to quit smoking. Lung cancer continues to be our #1 reason for death in our state, along with cardiovascular disease and stroke. And unfortunately, brown and Black communities remain in the top tier of reasons for death. Although COVID in the past year has certainly skyrocketed. One other area before my time expires, in addition to all these physical challenges that I've mentioned, but we have opportunity and hope, is the mind-body connection. As indicated, I have been so rewarded by coming with many of you into the communities, providing boots on the ground, delivering help to the most needy, to the homeless, many of whom suffer with co-occurring diseases, such as mental health with schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety, depression that's untreated, and also substance use disorder. You can get for free. We have available through our Department of Substance Abuse and Mental Health kits that can save a person who may be struggling at home in secret with a opioid addiction that started maybe with a backache. Maybe they're a construction worker or working in a community area where they induce pain, turn to prescriptions. Prescriptions lead to heroin and then to fentanyl. Fentanyl, folks, is deadly. But we have good news. We can save persons with a little spray called Narcan. We have it for free. Or you can buy it over the counter. Or we can have it mailed to your house. If you know a loved one or someone suffering, break down that stigma. Speak up. Do not be embarrassed. You have your pastors here. You have community leaders. It is okay not to be okay. So, wow, I've covered a journey here. I hope you get the sense the state is here to be an incredible partner. Not only my office, but the Lieutenant Governor's Challenge, where you can sign up to enter a contest and be rewarded, but have an incredible opportunity to come forward and work with us. We have a lot of awesome calls that are hosted. If you've not joined our Black leaders or Latino leaders calls or faith leaders calls, we hope that you do so. We host those. We'll get you signed up and signed in. A great opportunity. And again, to our Kent County Coalition, to everyone who organized today, I just want to thank you. Know that there are resources, our 211 or our 24/7 Hope line, which is really easy to remember, 1-833-HOPE-DE, 1-833-HOPE-DE. So we've covered a lot. We have resources, cradle to grave, autism to Alzheimer's, in between, nutrition, exercise, stress management. Don't suffer alone. Thank you to the community. Thank you to the health ministers. A shout out to many of you who have worked with us with the Medical Reserve Corps this past year, and one of the hats that I wear at the university. You have been boots on the ground. And the best thing we can do, folks, is to make sure our friends are vaccinated, help nurses, help doctors who are tremendously burned out and stressed out, to take care of yourself, to also make sure for our children. You'll hear later, soon our 5-year-olds and up are going to be able to have access to the Pfizer vaccine. Really one of the most important things that we can do. So I think I've talked my entire time. I have been delighted to join you for the past 10 minutes and to thank each of you. And I just can't wait to take copious notes today. My office is listening in. Visit me if you haven't. I have offices in the Tatnall building in Dover or in Carvel up in Wilmington. Have a blessed day. God be with us. And let's stay well. And let's make Delaware the healthiest, strongest state in the nation and make our president proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Lieutenant Governor. Wow, it was an amazing presentation that you have given us on today. Thank you so very much. I do have one question that I'd like to ask you, and that question is in regards to vaccination hesitancy. How is your initiative going with the Kent County Coalition regarding vaccination hesitancy in the Black and Brown communities?
You know, I can say that the Kent County Coalition, thanks to you and your church and to Reverend Page, who's championing this, and to the many other pastors and synagogues and, initiatives at mosques that we have seen, you have played a central role in not only having the COVID testing, which folks need. Obviously, many employers are now requiring that, and also the hospitals and the healthcare facilities being pushed to make sure all are vaccinated. You all have been front and center with outreach, messaging. Now you all have a wonderful opportunity. If your listening audience is here and is interested, please get up with not only Reverend Chandler, but Reverend Page. Sign up. I know they're doing community grassroots work. Many of you were phenomenal when we did the census. You went door to door with us. We need that now. We need the momentum. And we need to be role models when we're in the stores, wearing our masks, when we're in church, making sure we follow certain protocols. Really important. But we got a long way to go. We still lag behind. The Black and Brown communities are much less vaccinated compared to other populations, but you're making headway. And thanks to you and your leadership. So sign up. Make sure to be supportive. And the other thing, if you all are collecting items and donations for your work in the health field, we want to all get behind you. We want to be there. We want to support, whether it's monetary or other resources. We want you to be supported. So in any capacity, I know the state has provided certain funding through the Federal CARES Act dollars, but we've got to make sure to be stronger. So we need the Kent County Coalition. We need your support. We thank you for that. And please join those weekly or every other week calls. I think there's one today, or might have missed one yesterday. You probably know Reverend Chandler, but join, support, get behind these remarkable leaders in our community.
Thank you so very much. And I appreciate your time and sharing with us all that you're doing to make a difference, not only in the state of Delaware, but throughout the world.
Well, we appreciate that. We do. I do. And thank you. And I'm so thrilled with the speakers you have today. You have some of the best in our state that you're going to be hearing from who are making a difference. And thank you for this incredible program today, not only about eating better and our lifestyle and the HealthNUT. And I hope we get to do this again. And next time, maybe in person. That would be great if we get those vaccine numbers up in person. Thank you.
Yes. And we're going to share all of your resources on our website at www.healthnut2021.com so awesome. That people can always come back. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you so much.
All right. Family, we are ready for our first break. And I ask that you would just give us 5 minutes and we'll come right back. All right, family. I need somebody to help me out. and to put into your browser www.kahoot.it. I need you to put into your browser www.kahoot.it, and then put into your game pin 214-8670. Put into the game pin 214-8670. I want to know if there's somebody in Cyberland who is willing to play this game. www.kahoot.it. And I want you to put in the game pin 214-8670. Come on. Do we have anyone who is willing to play? I may put some money up on this thing. I pray that you got a Cash App, because whoever wins may receive some money, some dividends. How about that? I don't know about you, but I want to go to a conference where I can get engaged, play a game, and perhaps win some money. Do we have someone who would play the game? www.kahoot.it. All right, I see you, Marcia. I see you, J. Rue. Okay, wonderful. I'm sure that there's somebody else who would like to play. Do we have any more takers? With all of these wonderful viewers, we gotta have somebody else who's going to type into their browser www.kahoot.it and put that game pin in 214-8670. It's real simple. If you got your smartphone, you can go ahead and open up your browser. And if you're on your desktop or you're on your Mac, you can do the same. Just open up another browser and then type in www.kahoot.it and put that game pin in of 214-8670. Okay, I'm going to count down now from 20. And I pray that we can get some more people to join in. I'm going to start at 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's go ahead and get Kahoot-ified. Thank you for those who went ahead and logged in. We appreciate it. And we're going to go through these questions. And I know that these questions are helpful for everyone. When did COVID-19 hit? Was it in January 1st, 2019, December 20th, 2018, October 31st, 2016, or March 16th, 2020? Is it red, orange, blue, or green? You got to answer fast, but you also got to answer accurately. Do we have an answer? Yes, we do. It happened March 16th, 2020. That's when COVID hit. And we found out here in the United States. Let's keep it moving. Faye is number one. Let's move on to next question. How is COVID-19 spread? Is it spread by touching contaminated objects, certain types of food, coughing and sneezing, staying inside too much? Is it red, orange, blue, or green? How is COVID-19 spread? And the answer is, it is spread by touching contaminated objects and coughing and sneezing. It is an airborne virus that we spread through the air. Okay, and Faye is still number one. J. Rue is number two. And God's chosen one is number three. Here we go. Hesitancy regarding vaccination. There is a bit, or exists among many people in the world, or it exists, or it does not exist. Is it red, orange, blue, or green? Hesitancy regarding vaccination. There is a bit, it exists among many people in the world, it doesn't exist, or it does exist. It exists among people, many people in the world. It is orange. Okay, Faye is still number one. Somebody got on the board. True or false? Knowledge deficit about the COVID vaccine can cause hesitancy. Knowledge deficit about the COVID vaccine can cause hesitancy. Is this true or is it false? Knowledge deficit about the COVID vaccine can cause hesitancy. True or false? This is true. Lack of knowledge has impacted people's decision on getting vaccinated. And we pray that through the HealthNUT, as well as all of our various programs throughout our states and United States, people will get informed, get educated, and make the best decision, not just for themselves, but also for their community. Here's the next question. What has helped fuel vaccine hesitancy? Historically inaccurate research linking vaccines to health risks, the amount of profit made by pharmaceutical companies, lack of transparency in research and development process, or dangerous medical trials where people have died. It is red. Historically inaccurate research leaking vaccines to health risks. One person got it right, but we're moving forward. This is not only fun, but it's also educational. Let's move to question number 6. What are the major factors for vaccine hesitancy? Is it safety? Is it how quickly the vaccine was manufactured? Is it side effects? Or is it all the above? Is it safety, how quickly the vaccine was manufactured, or side effects, or all of the above? Is it red, orange, blue, or green? Ladies and gentlemen, it is all of the above. They're all major factors for vaccine hesitancy. And J. Rule is number 1. They done dropped down to number 2. We're almost there. What is diabetes? Diabetes is the elevated levels of glucose in the blood and urine. Or is it condition in which blood sugar is sweet? Or is it chronic condition affecting the head? Or is it a form of hypertension? Is it red, orange, blue, or green? Remember, you got to answer fast, but you got to answer accurately. Diabetes is the elevated levels of glucose in the blood and urine. 5 of you got it right. J. Rue is still number 1. Joe is on fire, done crept up to number 2. Here we go. Question number 8. What are the treatments for diabetes? Is it blood monitoring and open heart surgery? Or is it there is no way to treat the disease? Or is it blood monitoring, use of insulin and medication, or the use of insulin and the amputation of limbs? Is it red, orange, blue, or green? It is blue. Blood monitoring, use of insulin and medication. Those are the treatments for diabetes. 4 of you got it right. So proud of you. J. Rule is still number 1. Here's question number 9. Poorly managed diabetes can cause what? Hypoxia, dilation of the coronary arteries, altered mental status, or absorption of poisons. Is it red, orange, blue, or green? Is it hypoxia, dilation of coronary arteries, altered mental status, or guess what? It is blue, altered mental status. Poorly managed diabetes can cause altered mental status. Okay, J. Rue is still number 1. Joe is number 2. Here's the question. Known symptoms of COVID-19 include what? Chills, cough, shortness of breath, or fever. What are the known symptoms of COVID-19? Chills, cough, shortness of breath, or fever. Is it red, orange, blue, or green? Ladies and gentlemen, it is all of the above. Whatever one you selected, you are absolutely correct. Okay, Jeru is still number 1. Okay, 14. Can you transmit COVID-19 from the vaccine? Is it true or is it false? Can you transmit COVID-19 from the vaccine? Is this true or is this false? Can you transmit COVID-19 from the vaccine? The answer is false. You cannot transmit COVID-19 when you are vaccinated. How cool is that? Yes. And so J. Rule is still number one. Joe is on fire with number two. What if I lose my vaccination card? What happens? I've been vaccinated, but I didn't get my second dose. What do I do if I lose my vaccination card? Find state information on CDC website, wait until my second dose appointment and report to the pharmacist, contact the FDA, or contact vaccination provider directly to access your vaccination record. It is contact vaccination provider directly to access your vaccination record. 3 of you got it right. Okay. And Faye done crept up to number 2. Joe is number 3. Josh is number 4. God's chosen one is number 5. We're almost to the end. Vaccination is only one way of combating the COVID-19 infection aside from the public health protocols. Is this true or is it false? Vaccination is the only way of combating the COVID-19 infection aside from the public health protocols. Is this true or is it false? You got to answer fast. You also got to answer accurately. This is true. This is a true statement. Thank you so very much. 3 of you got it right. And we're moving on to the final question. Tips for mental health. Well, you should surround yourself with positive supports, or you could effectively have stress management, build your self-esteem, or is it all the above? What are some good tips for mental health? Surround yourself with positive supports, effective stress management, build your self-esteem, or all of the above. Ladies and gentlemen, it is all of the above. And so, who comes in third place? It is Faye. Congratulations. Who comes in second? It is Joe. Congratulations. Who comes in number 1? Drum roll, please. It is J. Rue. Wow. Congratulations, J. Rue. You had slipped down to second, came back up to 1, slipped again, and then maintained it. I'm so proud of you. You did phenomenal. And as a result, guess what? You are going to win some funds. I need you, J. Rue, to send your information to Transformation AMEZC Dover @gmail.com. I need you to send over your Cash App. Send over your Cash App and we will send you $20 on today. Thank you so very much for playing today's Kahoot, where we were able to have some dialogue. Well, I was doing most of the talking, but you were speaking with your answers. Thank you. I appreciate your time. We're ready now for our next speaker, who happens to be Dr. Sandra Gadsden. She is truly a blessing to not only Christendom, but she's a blessing to so many people as she works in nephrology. She works in general nephrology, and she's going to talk about diabetes and what we can do in regards to preventive care. I'm going to ask that DK, you just go ahead and bring on Dr. Gadsden, and we will begin. Hey, Dr. Gadsden,
hello.
Good to see you, madam. Blessings to you. I want you to go ahead and just take it away. Blessings always.
All right, thank you. Well, first, good morning to all. And thank you, Reverend Dr. Chandler, for giving me the opportunity to speak to you and to talk about a subject that is extremely important to me, as I have done this work for many years. Thank you again for this opportunity. And thank you, Dr. Chandler, for your patience. You know, I'm not real savvy with the technology in that. So I'm just kind of happy that I even got into StreamYard. I really am. But it was with his patience that I was able to get that done. So with the time that I have this morning, and I've enjoyed the speakers that I've been able to hear so far, and I have to say with Bishop Moore and his talk about sleep, I said that's one of the factors that I really need to work on, getting enough sleep, because it really is important, and it makes a multitude of difference, I think, in your life and in your health as well. I'm going to talk about diabetes. Diabetes, and then I'm going to tie that in with the whole concept of kidney disease, because one of the things that most people with kidney problems, the cause of it is because of diabetes and hypertension. So I don't know how to advance slides. Can I just ask that we go to that first slide or we move up? Thank you. What I want to first say is when we talk about diabetes, what is diabetes? Diabetes mellitus is a complex group of diseases with a variety of causes, and we know that it's high blood glucose. And it's basically a disorder of metabolism, how our body metabolizes. We have to have sugar, we have to have salt, we have to have all of these items, but how does our body actually metabolize those things to lead to such an entity as we call diabetes? Well, there's two different types of diabetes. One is type 1. You might hear your doctor say, well, you have type 1 diabetes. That is really a hereditary type of diabetes. It occurs, it's lifelong. It occurs when the pancreas does not produce enough insulin to properly control blood sugar levels. See, the pancreas is where the insulin is made. And when we take in sugar, then the pancreas releases insulin at an appropriate time to control our blood sugars. When the pancreas is not working well, then we have poorly controlled blood sugars and we have diabetes. But type 1 is actually a hereditary type of diabetes, or it starts in childhood and it progresses through life. Type 2 diabetes is not. You used to hear people say non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, but it's called now type 2 diabetes mellitus. It's a disorder that is characterized by high blood glucose in the context of insulin resistance and relative insulin deficiency. So basically, you have a situation where the pancreas is not producing insulin well, and there is some deficiency in the whole concept of insulin production. And so you develop what's called diabetes mellitus when you have high blood sugars. So what are the symptoms that one gets when they have diabetes? They get polyuria, which is urinating a lot, polydipsia, which is drinking a lot of water or liquids, polyphagia, which is being hungry a lot. Now, those are the 3 P's, as I call them. Those are symptoms of diabetes, are symptoms that your blood sugar is elevated. Going to the bathroom a lot, urinating an extreme amount, being thirsty an extreme amount, and also being hungry an extreme amount. Those are the type of symptoms. So if you have those, or if you have one of those symptoms, you should get that checked out. Don't say, well, it's because I'm getting older, or well, it's because I'm eating a lot of sugar, could be, but you still should get that checked out. The other thing I think that's very important, and sometimes that we don't do well, when I say we, African Americans, is look at our family history. If you have a family history of a lot of diabetes in your family, whether it's on your mother's side, whether it's on your father's side, then it it behooves you to really, okay, let me just check that. Let me just check myself out. Let me get some testing done, because maybe I will have that, or maybe I'm at a stage where I'm like pre-diabetic or what have you. So it is important to be cognizant of your family history, and not only in diabetes, but in just period, because I'm going to just share something that is not, I'm not calling names, but this individual had ended up developing stage 4 prostate cancer. When they came in, they were at stage 4. The sad part about, and they were young, in their 50s, 51, 52. But the sad part about it is that their father died at age 61 of prostate cancer. You see what I'm saying? And so they didn't do testing or look into it or get their PSAs or what have you. And then boom, here they are. Here they were with those situations. So I share that, but I only said in the context is that you should be aware of your family history. I think it's a little bit better now than maybe years past. I know, if you look back at a few generations, people didn't know what folk had when they died. They just said, "Oh, well, they had this or they had that," or they just upped and down. You don't up and down actually. There's usually a reason, but the knowledge base I think was a little bit deficient. But now I think we have records, we have more interactions, and so you can find out as best you can your family history, which I think is very important, and govern yourselves accordingly. So with diabetes, when we know that those are the symptoms we have, well, one of the things that we need to do, of course, you're going to treat it. If you have diabetes, you're going to be taking insulin, or you're going to be taking oral agents, be it metformin or glyceride or some of the Actos or some of the other agents. Just depends on what your physician will put you on. Also, you have to look at your diet, decrease the intake of carbohydrates, decrease the intake of your sugars, be more cognizant of eating more vegetables and things that are more vegetables and fruits, I should say. Those are the things that you should be concentrating on. The reason why I feel, and I just know that controlling diabetes is so important, is because there's a high incidence of diabetes in our group, so to speak, and the sequela of not treating diabetes is somewhat of an issue. What can happen when you don't treat your diabetes, when you let yourself go? And trust me, if you can actually walk around with blood sugars of 300 or 350 and not even realize too, because the body kind of acclimates to having elevated sugar, so you don't even know sometimes that you have sugars like that. But it is causing deterioration in your body and in your system. What can happen? What happens when you don't treat your diabetes, when you're not aware, you don't treat it, you don't take insulin, you don't take your pills, you don't do your diet? What happens? Several things can happen. You can get diabetic, what's called diabetic nephropathy. You can get, that affects your kidneys, and that's what I'm going to talk about as well. You can get diabetic retinopathy, which affects your eyes and your vision, and it can lead to blindness. You can get peripheral vascular disease, and you can get lose your legs. We have a high incidence, and I think it's Baltimore County, which has one of the highest incidents in terms of amputations because of diabetes. And once you get a dead limb or gangrene, that's the medical term, but it's basically a limb that doesn't function, doesn't have blood supply. Then you end up losing that limb. You end up having to have an amputation. So it's important and imperative to be proactive on these things, because once your limb is gone, it ain't coming back. And once that limb is gangrenous and so forth, it's not coming back. And to save your life, you end up having to have an amputation, which you really don't want to have. So the peripheral vascular disease, also diabetes can lead untreated, can lead to cardiovascular disease. It can lead to kidney disease, and it also can lead to retinopathy or eye disease. And I use the term, if you would heard me, I said diabetes untreated. You can live with diabetes. It's the untreated that leads to other entities or other problems when it's not treated. And it's a long process. It's not something that happens quickly. It's over a long period of time. The slide that I had, I think before this, if we could go back one, I looked at, well, I'm sorry. Go back one more. Yeah, there it is. I was going in to talk about kidney disease and diabetes and kidney disease. So kidney failure is when the kidneys are not able to filter waste adequately. So the kidney is basically a filter. When we drink, when we eat, whether it's whatever we eat, whatever we put into our bodies is metabolized. It just doesn't stay there in that form. It's except for water, of course. But the foods and so forth that we eat are metabolized. They're broken down in various ways. God is amazing. Our bodies are amazing. When you think of all of the things that occur, when you put something in your mouth, there's metabolism that happens in the liver. There's metabolism that happens in the kidney. So everything, and those two are our filter stations, if you will. Our heart, that pumps the blood. It takes the oxygen throughout our brain, throughout all of our body, and so forth. The lungs, it takes in the air and it filters that, so to speak, and that also goes throughout our bodies in many ways in terms of our red blood cells and so forth. But the kidney is a filter. So when you take in items, things are broken down, and then the kidney becomes a filter. It gets rid of waste and it gets rid of water. So we got to do that. Whenever you go to that bathroom, you just kind of realize, okay, I'm getting rid of waste out of my body and I'm getting rid of excess water. So when the kidneys don't work, you're not able to do that. So when you have diabetes, if you have it for an extended period of time, it can cause those processes to not function as they should, and you don't get rid of waste and you don't get rid of the water. Now, when we have kidney failure, this is in the United States. If you look at this piegram, it'll show you the commonest reason for kidney failure in the United States is diabetes, 43.7%. High blood pressure is 28.4%. Glomerulonephritis, which is an inflammation of the kidneys, is 6.6%. Cystic kidneys, that's a hereditary. It's called polycystic kidney disease. It ain't nothing you can do about it. If you have it in your family, I think it goes on a male dominant side, then you can end up getting polycystic kidney disease. So your best bet is you have to go for a transplant. Urological diseases, you see that's 1.4%, but that has to do with prostate, maybe enlarged prostate causing a blockage and so forth. Other has to do with things, there's an entity called focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. That is an entity where your kidney almost looks like little Swiss cheese. It's these holes and scarring and so forth. Different things cause that. Obesity can cause that. Using drugs, and I don't mean Tylenol, I mean narcotic type drugs can cause that as well. Heroin, one of the things that can cause that. So if you look at that chart, diabetes and high blood pressure are the two top things that cause diabetic nephropathy. In my population, most of the patients have a history of diabetes or high blood pressure, one or the other, usually both. And if you can see how high those numbers are, they make up what 60-70% of the cases. And of course, in this condition, the filters of the kidney, the glomeruli, become damaged with diabetes and with high blood pressure. We can go with the next slide, I believe. Okay, can we move to the, okay, can we go to the next? All right, I talked about that a bit, so we can go to the next. Okay, so how does diabetes lead, I said, to kidney disease? At the onset of diabetes, the blood flow into the kidney increases, which may strain the glomeruli and lessen their ability to filter blood. So higher levels of blood glucose lead to the buildup of extra material in the glomeruli, which increases the force of the blood moving through the kidneys and creates stress in the glomeruli. Other factors that can include heredity, we talked about that, diet, lifestyle, and other medical conditions are also involved in the development of kidney disease. So when we look at how it progresses, and we can go to the next slide. Could we move to the next? Oh, I'm sorry, you're there. How does it progress? The kidney's ability to filter blood typically remains normal. So you've heard the terms chronic kidney disease, and that's more albumin leaks out of the blood and into the urine, and it becomes more difficult for the kidneys to excrete salt and water. So as a result, people hold salt in their body, they hold waste in their body, they have higher blood pressure, and they experience swelling of the legs, which I think you probably seen in some patients, in some people. So when we have symptoms of diabetic kidney disease, and then we can move to that next slide, then they're right there. And these are the symptoms that people have. You know, I talked about the symptoms of diabetes, what they are, the polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia, and that's age old. And here we are in the 21st century, and that ain't changed. The symptoms are the same. There actually ain't nothing changed, okay? The symptoms actually are the same. The symptoms of diabetic kidney disease are really multifactorial. You can have a whole lot of different symptoms. I've seen people, I had a patient once, she came in with, she had ended up with kidney disease. She ended up on dialysis. And guess what her only symptom was? It was sleeping a lot. She was sleeping, she said 14, 15 hours a day. And you know what her comment was? I thought that was normal since I was older. Well, it's still, and I mean, that sounds good, but that ain't normal to sleep 16 hours a day. It just isn't. So she finally found out what the problem was, and she ended up getting dialysis. But this lists different symptoms of diabetic kidney disease. You can have a poor appetite, nausea, vomiting. You can complain of drowsiness. You can complain of irregular heart rhythms. You can complain of muscles twitching, and you can have swelling in your hands, your feet, your face. These are all symptoms of diabetic kidney disease. And there are things that you should look at, even itching or extremely dry skin. You should think about diabetes, because when you have the itching, what that's really is a sign of parathyroid, and it's not the time, I guess, of this discussion to go into that. But the kidney is an amazing organ because of it gets rid of the waste, but it controls the metabolism of many things in your body, such as your calcium, your phosphates, and your bone disease. And you'll hear people who have kidney problems will end up getting sometimes renal bone disease. But you can control that with medications. So let's just go to the next slide. And it talks about how you diagnose somebody with, how do you diagnose diabetic kidney disease? Well, you diagnose it, you don't do it yourself, I would say. You go to a physician and you give a history. You also get an examination, And you also get urine tests. They dipstick your urine for protein or albumin. And then they do what's called a urine albumin to creatinine ratio. So that's the amount of protein excreted versus the creatinine, which the creatinine, you'll hear that term used. That's basically a muscle breakdown. So our bodies, like, remember when I talked earlier, I said that we break down things in our body. Well, there's a muscle breakdown too. And so normally our creatinine should be about 1. That should be what we have. So when we do this urine test, which can be done right in the office, then they can see the ratio of the protein versus the creatinine. And of course, I think about over 200 is abnormal. So that tells us that there's something wrong going on at that point. When we go to the next slide, if we go to that, then we look at their blood tests that we can use. And we also always hear, not always, but we hear about a term called glomerular filtration rate. And so that is telling us how well our kidneys filter. 60 or above is good. Below 60, between, I would say 60 and 16 indicates kidney damage. When we get to 15 or below, that indicates kidney failure. Now, so how that's done, when they take your BUN, they take your creatinine, they take your height, they take your weight, and it's calculated. Now, the old school way is for you to do a 24-hour urine. Some of you probably have been to doctors who said, okay, I want you to do a 24-hour urine. And you go, oh my God. And so you got to save your urine in this container for 24 hours. You take it to the hospital, to the lab, and then they do the calculations on that. And they can tell you how well that you actually filter and what your creatinine clearance is. And so those fall into play. If you're somewhere with 15 or low, you're kind of in trouble. If you're above that, we divide it now into different stages. There's stage 1, there's stage, which is above 60, there's stage 2, there's stage 3, there's stage 4. The beauty of it, it used to be, and this is, I would say, years ago, people would say, don't go to the doctor unless you need to have dialysis. Well, that's not a good way to do it, because you can be managed with chronic kidney disease for many years. They can get you on your diet, your medications, and so forth. So you can actually monitor. So there's a blessing in being able to actually, what's the word I want to use? Catch it early, so to speak. And I see Dr. Chandler there, so I think my time is winding down. Is that not? But
Dr.
I got
Gasson,
a
let me
couple
tell
more.
you are the cat's meow. You got it going on. And
Thank you.
the information that you have provided has been awesome. I wanted to pull in one comment that was made on the chat. Someone commented that diabetes is dominant on both sides of their family. What age should one begin preventative self-care?
What age? And this is the one where the diabetes is dominant on both sides of the family?
Yes.
There's not a too early age. If it's 12 years old, if it's 10 years old, they should start then.
Wow.
You know, obviously they're not going to the doctor, their parents are taking them, but they should start at that point. Mm-hmm. and to be aware of it. So when they get into their teen years, their young adult years, they're aware of it. So maybe they don't eat all the ice cream and all the cakes and pies that are out there. They have to say, okay, I have to cut back on this, or I can't have all of this because of my family history. So I think it's important that the age, I mean, you've seen 6 and 7 year olds with diabetes.
Oh,
so it's no age. If they have that type of family history, they have to be cognizant of it at a very early age and get all of the type of help that they need to keep them from going into into worsening diabetes, because then you, like I said, you have to worry about all of the other entities that diabetes can cause: the kidneys, the eyes, the vascular disease, the cardiovascular disease. They have to be cognizant of all of that. So it's important that even at that early age that they are mindful of it, because sometimes our peers can be our biggest problems. And if they're with the kids and they're all eating everything under the sun, then they're going to want to do the likewise. But they got to be aware of it to say, no, I really can't do that. I have to be cognizant of what my health is.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. This is wonderful, rich information that you have provided us on this day. And I am so grateful that you took the time, you sacrificed time out of your very busy schedule to talk with us about best practices and some preventative care, and giving us some education about what diabetes is and how it impacts our kidneys. And so thank you, Dr. Gatson. Truly appreciate all that you've been able to share with us on today.
You're welcome. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I really enjoy talking about this. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. And I hope it has been of benefit for, the listeners to just say, okay, I better be aware of this. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right. As Dr. Gasson signs off, we're going to be receiving some words from Dr. Scantleberry. And before she comes, I just want to make sure that you know who she is. She is dynamite. She was recently retired from Christiana Care's kidney transplant program, where she served as the Associate Director and Director of Outpatient Clinics. She has been named to both the Best Doctors in America and Top Doctors in America lists multiple times. And I love the quote that she has: "I do my best not to let obstacles bring me down, but to see them as challenges I overcome." And so we're grateful that Dr. Scantleberry is going to share with us on today. And I hope that you will receive your blessing as she talks about best practices in health. Let us receive Dr. Scantleberry.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? And thank you so much for having me on this platform, Pastor Chandler.
Thank you, Dr. Scantleberry. And for those, I just want to give a shout out. I need you to ask questions. If you have any questions for our doctors, please post them in the comments and we will retrieve that information. And so we will do our best to answer those questions. Thank you, Dr. Scantleberry.
Thank you so much for having me. And I want to thank Dr. Gatson for giving that fantastic summary on diabetes and how it affects the body, as well as chronic kidney disease. Because, for me as a transplant surgeon, I'm going to talk about kidneys and transplant and dialysis primarily, but mostly to think about what affects our community. So she has stolen some of my thunder, but I'm going to continue through and try to highlight some other areas. So thank you very much for having me. And next slide, please. And so we know that kidney disease, as we just heard, affects so many of us. And really, she talked about where exactly are your kidneys? They're really in the back of your abdomen, protected under your rib cage, just above your waistline. And they're actually surrounded by a large amount of fat that protects them from being injured if someone broke your ribs or puncture you in the back. So many people don't know it, but there are some people who are born with one kidney. And unfortunately, unless you have a CT scan or ultrasound looking for something else, you are not aware that you may have one kidney. Most of us are born with two. But one can work just as well as two kidneys, which is why we are advocating for people to be organ donors, especially when it comes to kidney disease. Next slide, please. And so she also talked about where the kidneys are, what they do, filter your blood, regulates blood pressure. It's important to realize that if you have kidney disease and it is from another cause, once your kidneys start to not function properly, if you will develop high blood pressure, because it's not only a cause of kidney disease, it's also a symptom of kidney disease. And sometimes that gets confused, especially when we assume that just because you are African American, who are more likely to have kidney disease from high blood pressure, and you assume that it's from likely because you have high blood pressure for many years. But for many people, they may not. They may have some other underlying cause that may have resulted in their kidney dysfunction. We heard about it removing waste, and it also produces a hormone that allows us to make red blood cells, which keep us from being anemic. So as you develop kidney disease, and many people will present with severe anemia and receive blood transfusions before anyone check to see that they have chronic kidney disease. And many patients present with such severe anemia, require in-hospital iron infusions just because their kidney disease has been so low. And the fact of the matter is that nearly over 37 million people are estimated to have chronic kidney disease, about over 15% of the US population. And most of us do not know that you have it. So 9 out of 10 people will not know that they have kidney disease. And so it is important to really know that, especially get your kidneys checked around with other things. So 1 in 2 people with very low kidney disease who are not on dialysis do not even know they have end-stage kidney disease or severe chronic disease until they end up in the emergency room now with chronic fatigue, swelling of their legs, can't breathe because of the fluid overload, and hence needing the urgent or immediate dialysis. Next slide, please. So we heard about kidney disease, but acute kidney disease, which is different, your kidney stops suddenly working because of an acute injury, and you may have been dehydrated with not enough blood flow to your kidneys, or acute blood loss, direct injury to your kidneys, such as a trauma accident, or urine backed up in your kidneys because you have kidney stones or prostate obstruction, would not allow the urine to flow. But in these cases, if you correct the abnormality, your kidney function can recover. One of the things we saw with COVID and COVID infections and patients who were hospitalized in the ICU is that many of them succumbed to acute kidney disease and shut down off their kidneys, where they may have needed dialysis because of the overwhelming infection from coronavirus. But many of them improved and came off dialysis afterwards, if you don't have any other underlying issues that may exacerbate the situation. Next slide, please. So we talked about, well, we heard that diabetes is the leading cause of kidney failure. Type 2 diabetes, or what we call adult onset diabetes, and high blood pressure is number 2. But when we look at high blood pressure, as far as African Americans, it is the leading cause of kidney disease. And approximately 1 in 3 adults with diabetes and 1 in 5 adults with high blood pressure may have chronic kidney disease. And as you heard before, it is important to get checked or know what medications you are on. Next slide, please. So Dr. Gasson also mentioned the stages of chronic kidney disease. And so, you know, as you get older, oftentimes our kidney function is no longer 100%. It may be 90%. Oftentimes, if we're looking for people who are, or someone who wants to donate a kidney, we want to make sure that the kidney function is greater than 85%, because if you take away 1 kidney, you want to make sure that that possible donor still have enough kidney function left behind to still function with 1 kidney. And so gradually over time, mild loss is when you start getting to 70%, 60, 70%. Stage 3, you're mild to moderate when you're now hovering below 50%. And then as you get down to 30 to 40%, you're headed towards stage 3B to stage 4, where you're about 20 to 25%. Then stage 5, where you then have to think of option for replacement therapy. And so the filtering mechanism goes away. You then have more accumulation of water that we heard before and swelling. Next slide, please. We heard also about other causes of kidney disease, such as polycystic kidney disease, even sickle cell disease, sarcoidosis for many women, lupus nephritis. It is seen in men, but the majority of patients that we see who end up with kidney disease often are women who have had systemic lupus. Glomerulonephritis, a big word for inflammation in your kidneys, where you start not being able to function properly. Drug abuse has been a big factor for many patients, as well as hepatitis C. While it affects the liver, it also affects the kidney. And so that is important to know. So while the largest group is diabetes for kidney disease, the second largest group is those with high blood pressure. Next slide, please. And as we heard, kidney disease is mostly silent. By the time you have symptoms, you are already in a severe failure or get headed towards there. We heard about the fatigueness and the tiredness and the memory loss and the brain fog. And you have to think about the fact that if your kidneys are filtering your waste products and you are at 20% and feeling okay, as the disease is progressive, so you may not know that you're tired. You may just feel like, I'm doing okay. But remember, 80% of your metabolites are not being filtered out of the body, and they're accumulating over time. So you're just getting, you're pretty much just getting the extras off. If your glass is full and so any other is being, the overflow is being taken care of, but the excess is always there. And so this can lead to memory loss, what we call brain fog. And we often talk to other family members to say, how is he doing? Is he forgetting his stuff? Is she not remembering what she has to do? Those kind of things can limit your ability to do your job. Next slide, please. And so we know that there are several risk factors for kidney disease. And we heard about diabetes. High blood pressure within the African-American population is number one. We know that family history is important, heart disease, and also our race and ethnicity, as well as age. Next slide, please. And so while diabetes is the leading cause of end-stage renal disease, African Americans are about 3.5 to 4 times more likely to develop kidney disease compared to Caucasians. Hispanics are about 1.5 times more likely to develop it than non-Hispanics. Native Americans also have a higher incidence of diabetes. And African Americans progress faster to chronic kidney disease, from chronic kidney disease to end-stage kidney disease, leading to overrepresentation among dialysis population. And so that is why you see many patients in a dialysis unit often make up a large percentage of African Americans sitting in those chairs. And so when I take a Caucasian and a white African American, if we have a chronic kidney disease and we're looking for someone who's willing to donate a kidney, we will not take an African American who is on high blood pressure medication because even though the creatinine may be normal and the blood pressure may be normal with medications, the issue is in 20 years, will they end up with chronic kidney disease that may progress faster than the Caucasian who may be okay to donate as a donor with high blood pressure on 1 to 2 medications. Next slide, please. And so the response of African Americans to high blood pressure medication is quite different. It is important because many of our patients who have high blood pressure require 3 and 4 different medications for better blood pressure control. It's often resistant. We are often more sensitive to salt and require not only more medications, but we also need to have better blood pressure goals. So many times patients will say, my blood pressure is good. I'm running about 150 over 85 to 90. Well, no, that is still high blood pressure. And if you think about blood pressure beating on your arteries, and you think about the pressure that it exerts on all your major blood vessels, on your heart blood vessels, in your brain, there are higher rates of death related to these diseases, higher incidence of stroke, higher incidences of heart disease and sudden death. And because if you just think of your having high blood pressure is like constantly causing your body to be running all the time. And so you're doing a marathon constantly. And as a result of that, at some point, your muscles are going to get fatigued. At some point, your heart is going to say, I can't do this anymore. I can't race like this endlessly. So that is very, very important. Next slide, please. And so what are the risk factors? Certainly obesity, our bad diets. And you have to remember that processed foods have high in fat and salt, which is tastes good, but if it's convenient, it's usually you're going to pay a price for that. Alcohol use, low activity, being a couch potato, certainly smoking, stress, family history, being gender, as well as age. And so these are, and as well as what medications you're taking. So those are important conditions to remember. Next slide. And fortunately, some of these factors are not modifiable. It is what it is. If you're older and you know you're at risk for kidney disease, you just have to make sure you monitor gender and our genetic history, as well as your ethnicity. We know African Americans are more likely to suffer from high blood pressure, but a lot of these things are factor into our modifiable risk factors. Our salt intake, our saturated fats, our alcohol, smoking, stress, physical activity, and socioeconomic status, because we know that those patients who live in food deserts aren't able to purchase or don't have the ability to eat those fruits and vegetables that we would like them to eat. And so they're consuming processed foods for breakfast. They're going to next place to get the Chinese food for lunch. Next slide, please. So let's think about our salt, because many of us reach for the salt shaker before we even taste the food. So the next time you're sitting at a table and you think about that, I want you to remember, do you really need the salt? Because this is going to affect our heart mostly. Next slide. You're telling me to wrap up, and I'll do it in about 2 minutes. Next slide. So these are our statistics. Remember that high blood pressure can go undetected. 17% of women in their 20s and 30s have high blood pressure. Nearly 58% of Black women over the age of 20 have high blood pressure. So this is important to remember, especially for Black women. Next slide. When we look at disparities in end-stage renal disease, African Americans stick out much more so than others. When we look at chronic kidney disease, when we look at early stages, we're all equal, but we progress to failure at a higher rate than everyone else. Next slide. And so this is African Americans in the top line. Adjusted rates for end-stage renal disease, higher above everybody else. Next slide. All right, next slide. And so it's important to get tested. We just heard about diabetes. We know that as many as 50% of patients with stage 4 kidney disease are undiagnosed. And so we want you to get tested. We want you to know what your kidney is. We heard about urine creatinine ratio. We want you to go, when you see the doctor, get your numbers. Next slide. It's important to know your blood pressure, your blood sugar, but it's also important to know your creatinine and whether or not you have urine in your blood, whether you have protein in your urine. Next slide. And so for many people, next slide, please. And so for many people, we want to get you to a nephrologist. This is where you can get diagnosed. If your primary doctor isn't treating your stage 3 and 4, if you're in stage 3 and 4 and seeing a primary doctor, you need to be seeing a nephrologist in order to help you with managing that process and getting you on the right track. Next slide. So we talked about coexisting disease. Coronary heart disease is the #1 killer for people on dialysis. Heart disease is the #1 killer for people on dialysis with end-stage renal disease. That is important to know. And so you are at risk for undiagnosed heart disease, peripheral vascular disease, blood clots. So those things are important to know. Next slide. So next slide. And so we really want to know that we can get checked. We want to have that annual exam. Take your loved one to a doctor. Know whether you have protein in your urine, because if you're not diabetic, you should not have protein in your urine. That's an early sign of kidney failure, kidney disease. Many people get lost in that, especially with young kids. As you have young kids, make sure you're checking your protein in your urine. Ask questions of your provider and make sure you institute those dietary changes that we will hear about or have heard about, as good nutrition and exercise. So thank you so much for this opportunity to talk today.
Thank you, Dr. Scantlebury. This information has been priceless, invaluable. I do have a few questions that I would love to ask you as we wrap up this session. The first question is in regards to kidney damage. Is it reversible? Is kidney damage reversible?
Once the kidneys are damaged, like I said, there's an acute process that happens if you are dehydrated or left out somewhere and you had acute blood loss, but some of that can be reversible. If it progresses too long and you end up with scarring in your kidneys, that will not be reversible. That may be there, but your overall kidney function will improve. It may not come back down to baseline. And so even with someone who over time may say my kidney function is normal, it may still be normal. It may go from a creatinine of 0.8 to 0.9 or to 1.2. And you'll say, okay, you're still within a good range. But you biopsy that kidney, you'll be expected to see some degree of scarring in that kidney.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And, we have fast food restaurants everywhere. It is cheaper to eat junk rather than to eat healthy foods. Do you know of any healthy foods one could eat in order to maintain good kidney health and function?
Well, I think it's important in some stages of kidney disease. We like to tell people, make sure you avoid the processed foods because they're high in salt. Oftentimes you can go to Wawa and buy some boiled eggs. Those are a source of protein. If you're not in stage 4, you're just within. Peanut butter may be another source of protein. Eating tuna fish, you can get tuna fish and some crackers. Those are things that are easy to buy. The ones that are not in a lot of salt. So you want protein. If you're diabetic, you want to avoid high amount of carbs. We all need some carbs, but it's okay to do some frozen vegetables as opposed to no vegetables at all. I mean, oftentimes in food deserts, it's hard to find adequate stuff, but you can often pick up, if canned food is all you can get, make sure you rinse those beans, rinse those peas, and try to get rid of as much salt as possible before you consume them. But I did an experiment with buying some bread from the store or even just a McDonald's sandwich, and I left it on my shelf for many, many months, and it stayed there. It didn't get mold. It didn't get fungus. It didn't get anything on it. So it's important to know, why did it keep so well after a long time? And even a roll of, so it's important to know that there's so many preservatives, and just even learning to read labels. How much salt is in this, in terms of, you only need, 1.5 grams of salt, but sometimes you can purchase a Big Mac or something else, and suddenly you've consumed all the salt that you need to do for that day, and anything is excess, and you wonder at the end of the day why your legs are swollen, because you've consumed so much salt.
Excellent, excellent. You had mentioned food deserts, and this would be the last item. I want to encourage churches that you could utilize your land and create farms. You can grow community farms so that people can come to your church, get the produce that they need, and maintain healthy living. And that can be a tremendous ministry to that community.
Absolutely.
The more people come to your church, the more that they'll be encouraged to want to be a part of your church. And so thank you for making mention of the food deserts, because there are a lot of food deserts in many of our Black and brown communities, but it doesn't have to be. And the church can be the answer in creating these farms where people can come and get produce. They can get healthy food as well as spiritual food.
Absolutely, absolutely. And collard greens they're winter greens and they're summer greens, and you can have things there throughout the season.
Yes,
absolutely. Great idea. Thank you so much. And that's one of the things I'm advocating at this church, where I look at the plot of land and goes, we can have a garden. Absolutely.
Community garden. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Scantlebury, for your time. Thank you for the wealth of information that you have provided. It has been tremendous. We are grateful. Thank you so very much. Family, we're going to move to our commercial, and I pray that you stay tuned to the commercial. It's good information that you definitely want to hear.
More than 70,000 people die from drug abuse in a year. 7.5 million people need to work more than one job to make ends meet. Human trafficking is a $32 billion industry in the U.S. On a single night, over 500,000 people experience homelessness in the U.S. Together, with 60,000 corporate partners, over 8 million donors, and nearly 3 million volunteers, United Way is fighting for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in every community. Together, in a year, we deliver healthcare services and support to more than 3 million people. Help over 1.3 million people get on the path to financial stability. Provide out-of-school programs and individualized support to more than 2 million at-risk teens, and enable over 500,000 people to get back on their feet through job skills training. These are the faces of change. You can be one too.
My name is Donnie Burris. I'm the CEO of Burris Logistics. We're a family business based in Milford, Delaware. When I started with the company full-time, there were about 400 of us in the company. Today, there are roughly 1,800 of us. One reason that we like to give back is none of us made it on our own, and we all need help along the way. By partnering with United Way, that lets us focus our efforts with a group that does know what's going on in the communities, the needs that exist, and we feel that United Way can get to those needs very effectively.
It's about getting things accomplished. So your investments in all of your locations has made tremendous impact in every community where you're located. And it is about making it happen. You have impacted thousands of people whose needs are so great. And I think that's why you continue to flourish. I'm very grateful for the work that your Uncle John did as our campaign chair for years. And he and his wife, Kathy, worked so diligently to make sure the United Way is successful. And then the greatest thing they did for me was to introduce me to your father, Bob Burris, and a man that was no nonsense, meant business, very committed to the things he believed in, a man of tremendous faith, and truly one of my heroes here. And now I get to meet my newest hero of Burris Logistics, Don. And you're doing a tremendous job, not only in the work of what you do for Burris Logistics with the food business and the transportation that you're doing, and refrigeration, but also, keeping a legacy of community advocacy and caring about outreach. And that's just been something very natural for the family.
When we think about our business, a phrase we use inside of Burris often is that at the end of our lives, none of us are going to care about how many cases of frozen food are in this operation. There's a lot of things in life outside of work that mean a lot more.
Because of you all, I was able to have an absolutely amazing experience last spring at the Virginia Tech Relay for Life, along with staying at the Baltimore Hope Lodge with my mother for 6 weeks and saving more money than I can comprehend. And the best part about it is I'm cancer-free. So thank you, ACS.
Thank you for all the support you gave my mom.
Thank you for 17 more years with this beautiful woman.
Hello, I'm Dr. Karen Knudsen, CEO of the American Cancer Society and the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. This last year has been challenging, to say the least. You understood that for cancer patients, their families, and their caregivers, the pandemic created even greater stress, uncertainty, and challenges. Through it all, you offered invaluable and critical support to ACS. It's because of you that we can continue to make life-saving discoveries and provide quality support and resources to those who need it most. Thank you for standing with us and for building a brighter future together.
Indeed, we are so grateful for all of our sponsors. I tell you, it's been tremendous, the type of support that we have received for this HealthNUT 2021 virtual conference. We're grateful for the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, our producer, the Star of Zion. We have the University of Maryland School of Medicine, First State, Community Action Agency. We have United Way. My very good friend, Reverend John Moore, that you saw in the commercial, is doing a fantastic job over there. We have the Delaware Racial Justice Collaborative, and we have Team Ujima of the Mid-Atlantic Episcopal District under the Right Reverend W. Darren Moore. We have the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. All of our sponsors have been wonderful support, and we are extremely grateful for all that they have done to help this to become a successful conference. My brothers and sisters, I pray that you are getting your blessing, because it's not only important for us to be spiritually healthy, we ought to be physically healthy. We have our next speaker who is going to share with us from the American Heart Association. His name is Mr. David Morris. He serves as the executive director of the American Heart and Stroke Association of Delaware. He's been in his role for about 3 years fighting cardiovascular and stroke in Delaware. He's coming with a wealth of knowledge. He's coming with some best practices. And we are also going to hear of some resources that he will share with us. I ask that you would now receive my new friend, Mr. David Morris.
Thank you so much for having me, Reverend Pastor Chandler. Really appreciate it. Thanks for this opportunity. And I would say that, I am the timing for my portion, and I don't know if you planned this, but it is perfect, because following Dr. Scantlebury, there's really a lot of overlap between our two programs and presentations. And in fact, interestingly enough, she really focused quite a lot on hypertension control and the impact that hypertension and heart disease can have on kidney disease. In fact, right now at the University of Delaware, the American Heart and Stroke Association has invested significant research dollars in a study around the correlation between heart disease, hypertension, and kidney disease and the impact there. So I'm really excited just that we have, just both the timing, her wealth of information and how it impacts the heart and vascular system, but also the fact that, we're doing that life-saving research right here in Delaware. It's really exciting for me. So thank you, Dr. Chandler.
I can't take any credit. I have to give all honor to God. The Lord has just simply orchestrated all of this, and we're grateful to be a part of it. Thank you.
As am I. So My name, as Dr. Chandler mentioned, my name is David Morris. I'm the Executive Director for the American Heart and Stroke Association here in Delaware. And what we're going to talk a little bit about today is we're going to cover what we call at the American Heart and Stroke Association, Life's Simple 7. So what if you had a simple plan that you could follow that could actually help you avoid about 80% of cardiovascular disease and stroke? I think you'd want to take me up on that, right? I mean, if you had that lottery ticket to living a longer, healthier life, you'd want to take me up on that. Dr. Chandler, if you could move to the next slide for me, please. So the mission of the American Heart and Stroke Association is to be a relentless force for a world of longer, healthier lives. We have set a very aggressive goal to reduce cardiovascular disease and stroke by more than 20% by the year 2030. It's a very aggressive goal, but how are we going to get that done, right? It actually takes all of you, everyone out there in our community. Dr. Chandler, move to the next slide, please. So just a little bit about heart disease and stroke. Cardiovascular disease is the world's leading cause of death, accounting for more than 17 million deaths per year. It's also the #1 cause of death here in the United States and right here in Delaware in particular. Stroke is the #2 cause of death around the world. It's #5 here in the United States, but unfortunately it's #4 here as the #4 cause of death in Delaware. So stroke is a really big issue for us. And we have, this number is really shocking, about 85.6 million Americans are living with some form of heart disease or stroke. It's really about every 39 seconds somebody dies from one of these diseases. It's really concerning. Next slide, please. So I just think this is really funny. If you could see this little, this little cartoon that we have here, where, everybody's heard that old adage that, oh, if you take a aspirin a day, you'll be able to avoid heart disease and stroke. Well, I just think this is pretty funny because basically it says, this is a doctor talking to his patient. He says, to prevent a heart attack, take 1 aspirin every day, take it out for a run, take it to the gym, take it for a bike ride, right? I mean, it's not as simple as just taking that. Now, I will say 80% of cardiovascular disease is stroke. That's 80%. So you can really cut down on your risk of heart disease and stroke with just a couple of simple factors that we'll cover here over the next few minutes. But what are the risk factors, right? Those are through lifestyle change, but what are the risk factors? Some stuff is just non-modifiable, as Dr. Scantlebury mentioned before. Your age, your gender, your family history. I mean, heart disease and stroke, it runs up and down my family tree. But what is modifiable for us all, right? Our cholesterol, blood pressure, hypertension, physical inactivity, obesity, being overweight, smoking, diabetes, right? So, slide please. If you had a guide, what if I could give you a guide that would guarantee you a longer, healthier life? You could prevent heart disease, you could feel stronger and healthier now, and it would provide you with a better quality of life as you invest in your lifestyle, relationships, and your life goals. You can continue for me. Next slide, please. You can go to the next slide as well. Thank you. So here at the American Heart and Stroke Association, we've tried to make this as easy as possible for everybody. We have simplified this down to 7 things that you can modify and check. And if everybody has a pen handy or can make a note for themselves, I would suggest that after today's presentation or when you have a few minutes later tonight or later maybe this weekend, visit mylifecheck.com, okay? Or visit heart.org and search for My Life Check. This just takes you a couple of minutes and it can basically give you what we call your ideal heart score. It will actually identify where you fall in terms of risk factors around cardiovascular disease and stroke. I'm telling you guys, it's completely free. It takes a minute or two. My Life Check. You can even just Google My Life Check and it'll take you right there. So let's move to the next slide, please. So when we think about the 7, the Life's Simple 7, okay, what are those 7 ways that we all can address and live a longer, healthier life free of cardiovascular disease and stroke? Number 1, as Dr. Scantlebury mentioned, high blood pressure, managing your blood pressure. It is the most significant risk. And in fact, it's actually called the silent killer, right? Because for me personally, for example, I suffered before I took this job, I actually suffered from undiagnosed, I didn't even know I had it, hypertension. And that runs up and down my family tree. 1 in 3 American adults suffer from high blood pressure. Here in Delaware, it's about 37% of Delawareans suffer from hypertension. And those, frankly, are just the ones that we know of, right? So what can you do? Know your numbers, okay? Know your numbers. Check your blood pressure. Track your progress. Learn healthy habits. And really your goal is in that 120 to 80 range, okay? And what you guys are gonna see is that a lot of what I talk about over the next few minutes, these things actually all go hand in hand. And if you work on one, you're gonna improve the others, okay? So blood pressure, number 1, when you're at the doctor, take note of those. Number 2, control your cholesterol. And again, Dr. Scantlebury talked about this as well, right? When there's too much cholesterol in our blood, it can put you at major risk for heart disease and stroke. Now, there are different types of cholesterol, right? You know, it's calculated by your HDL and your LDL. Some cholesterol actually it's not bad for you, right? You want to have that good cholesterol, but there is the bad cholesterol, and that really builds up the blockages in your arteries and vascular system and makes it much harder for your blood to pump through your body, for your heart to work, right? So how can you do this, right? Talk to your physician about it. Know your numbers, right? Eat better foods, right? And again, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but this is all going to go hand in hand. And get more active. When you're more active, you are automatically going to see improvements in your blood pressure and your cholesterol. The next one for us, right? Our blood sugar. And again, I keep going back to her, but Dr. Scantlebury before me had some great information around this. You know, we need to keep an eye on our blood sugar, right? Because that encourages the growth of that plaque in our arteries and increases our risk for diabetes, which can lead to kidney disease, as well as heart disease and stroke. Again, you know, a lot of this stuff goes hand in hand, right? We got to make good food choices. We need to commit to regular physical activity, maintain a healthy weight, and the fasting glucose. And this is really important. The goal is less than 100 milligrams. Okay, so really a lot of this goes back to seeing our primary care physicians and getting those annual checkups. Know your numbers. In fact, it's really interesting. The Heart Association has done many studies around this, and we have actually found that simply by knowing your numbers, you will actually reduce your hypertension, your cholesterol, and your blood sugar just by knowing those numbers and being aware of what your baseline is. It's really interesting how that all works together. So the next one for me, right, is we got to get active, right? And this is obvious, right? You know, people who exercise just have better health, right? So what do you do around this, right? You know, you make a decision to get moving. You could start today, right? Pick a day to start. Maybe it's today. Maybe it's this weekend. Get a buddy. Honestly, that is a great way to keep yourself motivated. Join us for the Heart Walk. You know, and if I could give folks one piece of advice around getting active, it's to do something that you like. You know, if you hate running, don't run, right? If you really like swimming, that's great. You know, if you like to do some type of a competition, you know, maybe you play basketball or racquetball or tennis, you know, find something that you really enjoy and get a buddy to do it too, because you'll keep each other motivated. The other thing is that the Heart and Stroke Association, in terms of getting active, it doesn't take a lot, really. You know, we would say that we recommend at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity. So that could be walking, right? 5 days a week. You want to do that for about 150 minutes. We also, or if you can at least do 75 minutes, just 3 days a week instead, that's going to have the same results for you. So again, it can just be taking the dogs for a walk or getting the kids involved or finding something you like and find that buddy. It's really, really important. The next one for us is to eat better, right? And, I think honestly, we all could eat better. I think, it's pretty obvious for all of us, right? But we really need to eat a variety of heart healthy foods. It's recommended lots of fruits and vegetables, those whole grain carbohydrates, the fat-free or low-fat dairy products. We all love our dairy here in the United States and in Delaware, right? And it's also the fish with the omega-3 fatty acids. And, again, as Dr. Scantlebury mentioned just before me, watch out for those foods that are highly processed with lots of added sugar. The sodium, that here in the United States, and I think that this is really a big reason why we suffer from so much hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and stroke, is that we consume so much salt, right? It's really quite out of control. The one thing that I would also say is get the whole family involved in this part, right? The kids, if they can come home and we can say, let's add some color to our plate, and that's fruits and vegetables, it's going to make a really big difference. Also, involve them in the grocery shopping, involve the kids in the cooking, right? Get them started early and often in adding those fruits and vegetables to our plates, and it'll make a big difference. I would say that, my daughter, she's 7 years old, she participated in the Kids Heart Challenge at her school, and she came home. I was making dinner that night, and she turned and looked at me and said, Dad, where's the color on our plate? We need to add some color to our plate. And I was like, frankly, I'm not sure if I've ever been more proud of her, because, she got me taking those actions. So involve the whole family when you're doing this. I would also recommend heart.org has a ton of free heart healthy recipes and ways to engage your family and the kids. Tons of free references and opportunities on there to take a look at that for us. The next one, this one's pretty obvious, right, is to lose weight. And again, I think everybody can see now how all of this stuff is fitting hand in hand, right? We're gonna eat better. We're gonna know our numbers. We're gonna get more physically active. This one is going to automatically happen for you, right? So a body mass index of less than 25 is really optimal for cardiovascular health, okay? So invest your energy in that task. You really need to think about, what we want to do. And think about our waist circumference, right? So our waist circumference. So when we're talking about that, really the goal for women is about 35 inches or less. And the goal for men is about 40 inches or less. And again, that's with the BMI, which is greater than 25 kilograms, per meter. So again, think about how you can really pull all this stuff together. And the numbers here, and you guys see it in our local community, right? We see it when we're out and about over the summer or out in public. Most Americans, 20 or older, we have over 159 U.S. adults. It's almost 70% that are overweight or obese. And it's not just adults, it's all age groups. And it's here in Delaware too. More than 1/3 of our children here in Delaware are overweight or obese. And that actually can lead to long-term effects of cardiovascular disease and stroke. It can damage the heart long-term. It is really, the numbers around this are shocking. And I think that this is something, again, if you focus on all of these steps together, this is going to really help you. And then the next one, and this one, I think this is the last one here for us. It's pretty obvious, right? But we have to stop smoking. Smoking, whether it's traditional tobacco products or these, the vape products, which are so popular now, it is really the #1 modifiable cause of death. And then, as Dr. Scantlebury mentioned, it leads to kidney disease, but it also, is the #1 factor of heart disease and stroke. It's the most preventable. It's not easy, folks. We know this. Whether you're a smoker yourself or you have a friend or a family member who's consuming traditional or non-traditional tobacco products, support them. provide them with the right environment, help them, have them talk to their physician, support them, check in with them on a regular basis, and really help them plan the response to those roadblocks. So that's the number 7 there, right? But again, you can see all this going together. Just really quickly before I wrap up here in a minute or two, I do just want to talk a little bit about the warning signs of heart attack and stroke. So the warning signs for heart attack, are chest discomfort, discomfort in the arm, back pain, jaw pain, shortness of breath, and that can be with or without chest discomfort, cold sweat, nausea, lightheadedness. And I would say that one important thing to remember is that heart disease is not just something that affects men. Cardiovascular disease and stroke affect women as well. In fact, 1 in 3 women in the United States will suffer from cardiovascular disease in their lifetime. It's really, and those symptoms can be different. When my mother had her heart attack a few years ago, she thought she had the flu. She was sick to her stomach. She was sweating. Her back hurt really bad. Those warning signs can be a little bit different for women than they can be for men. So we really need to be aware of those and make sure that everyone in our families and our networks know about those. And then stroke, and you guys have probably heard the FAST acronym, I hope, right? FAST, face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty or slurred, time to call 911. I have heard so many stories about people seeing a colleague at work, especially because we spend so much time in our offices and our work environments, thinking that their colleague was drunk, that they had been drinking, but really they were suffering from a stroke, and they recognized those warning signs, called 911, and got them the help that they needed. Time is brain, okay? So the last thing I just want to talk a little bit about really quickly is, how you can help, how you can get involved. As I mentioned, visit heart.org, heart.org/Delaware. You can participate in some of our upcoming events. Follow us on social media. Great opportunity there. AHA Delaware on all social media channels. Join us for the Heart Walk. This is a great community event. We hope to be in person this year, although we also offer a virtual option to walk where you are. The Wilmington Heart Walk is Sunday, November 7th at the Tubman Park on the Wilmington Riverfront. But if you're in Southern Delaware, I know we got people from all over the state here with us. The Southern Delaware Heart Walk is Sunday, November 21 at the Rehoboth Beach Bandstand. Heart.org/Delaware to find out that information. You can also help recruit a school. I mentioned my daughter came home with that great information. Visit the Kids Heart, help us with the Kids Heart Challenge and recruit a school. Or make a gift. Or you can also reach out to me too. I'm always willing to help, and we can use all the help that we can get. So, and the last thing, Pastor Chandler, if I could, is that while there's 7 steps, and that may seem a little bit overwhelming to our audience or those folks out there, even if you can start today and just pick 1 or 2, or maybe you want to get crazy and you want to try to do 3 or 4, really anything that you can do along these 7 simple steps, I think is really going to help you and your loved ones live longer lives.
Wow. This has been a tremendous presentation, Mr. Morris. Thank you. Thank you. Great information. And our comment section has been populated with multiple questions. And so I'm going to ask you just a couple of the questions that have been posted. One question is, what foods are good for heart disease? What foods are good for heart disease?
Yeah, I love this question. I'm so glad. Thank you, H Kids, for asking that one. Honestly, first and foremost, we need to start with the fruits and vegetables. We are just here in Delaware and around the United States, we are not consuming enough fruits and vegetables. And even as the doctor mentioned prior to me, it doesn't have to be fresh. If you can get those frozen fruits and vegetables or even the canned stuff, that works just as well, we've found. Also, you want to think about a healthier fish diet. We want to stay away from those processed foods that you guys were talking about earlier, but also, if you can look at those that have the omega-3 acids in them, those are really good for you. And there's a lot of really awesome recipes on heart.org that people can visit and really find the stuff that's going to help you. Really, it is.
Excellent. Excellent. We're going to post those websites onto our website so that people can have access to that. Thank you very much for that. Got another question for you. how do you know what foods are processed, and how are they different from over-the-counter medicine?
Interesting. That's a really interesting question. So here in the United States, we eat a tremendous amount of processed foods, a tremendous amount. If I could make one suggestion, it would be to take a second to read those labels, right? And the big thing that the Heart and Stroke Association always says is that, you know, if you don't know what that ingredient is, it's probably not good, right? You know, I mean, we've seen that, right? Reverend Chandler, your Pastor Chandler, like we see on those labels, it's like, you know, these 18-syllable words that are in our potato chips that we're eating or whatever. And I mean, that right there is going to be processed. It's also, you talked about, you know, the cheap option, those cheaper fast food options, they're easier for us to access. And that's okay in moderation, but really, you know, those foods are going to be processed. You know, I thought it was pretty interesting what Dr. Scantlebury was saying about putting the cheeseburger on her windowsill and it not looking any different months later. I mean, that's a pretty big red flag that that food is processed.
Yeah. But those cheeseburgers are so good, man.
Yeah, right. Well, and we're all going to do that in moderation, but it's in moderation, you know, really, honestly.
It is in moderation. It's definitely in moderation. Thank you so very much, Mr. Morris. This has been a wonderful segment, and we appreciate the time that you have shared with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you all. And please feel free to reach out. I'm happy. We can always use all the help we can get. Thanks again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Family, we're getting ready to transition to our certified health coaches. We have Miss Brittany Whitworth and Monica Vasquez, and they're all the way from Texas, and they're going to share some best practices because it's important that we get good coaching. What are the best, what are the best practices that we could employ so that we can maintain good health and that we can be free to do great things in our lives? You know, Bishop Moore talked about how he felt tired earlier today, and we want to energize everyone. And one way that you can be energized is eating right, but also getting good coaching so that you can be directed which direction you ought to go. And so now we're going to bring on Miss Brittany Whitworth and Miss Monica Vasquez. And thank you so very much for sharing with us. How's everything in Texas?
Good morning. Everything in Texas is beautiful and big as always.
I tell you, this has been such a wonderful HealthNUT conference. We have people in Chicago. We have people in England. We have people in Africa, different countries in Africa. And here you are in Texas. Yeah. And it's all good. Health impacts all of us. And we all want to do better, eat healthier, and have better lives. And so thank you for taking some time with us to get us on the right track.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me just start off by saying what a blessing it is for Brittany and I to be here with all of you. And I want to personally thank Dr. Reverend Chandler, Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall Long for their passion to help our Delawareans and everyone across the country get better informed through this amazing venue and the HealthNUT 2021. Thank you so much for organizing this. I'd love to give Bishop Moore a special shout out for embracing health. And while his journey has just started, celebrating him for just a few moments on his accomplishments thus far. So great job. And Mr. Morris, wow, the last session you just shared with us, so much wonderful information. And while we may have heard it throughout the course of our lives, you know, I think it's got more of attention for all of us. The importance of being healthy is really top of mind for many of us. So I want to start off by just simply saying, if we move on to slide 2 for just a minute, during this time, next slide, please. Thank you so much. During this time, we'll be focusing on the importance of having the right mindset. and understanding the importance of your skill set, and more importantly, understanding why. Why is it important for you to make a change now? And lastly, we'll close with sharing tips on how to maintain long-lasting health impacts and how that might help you and your family. And if we move to slide 3, the next slide, please. So let me start with my compelling why and why it was important for me to make a change in my health. You know, I've always had a very small frame growing up, and I never really focused on my health because I was thin. But prior to 2020, you know, as I kind of sat back and observed how I was feeling and what I was eating and what I was doing, a lack of activity, I found myself in a very troubling situation. In 2020, I found myself indulging in more rich foods, being that couch potato, enjoying lots of Netflix, and just spending less time exercising, which really was a huge impact on my health. By year end, I came to the realization that I was extremely tired, and I was tired of being tired. I was tired of how I was looking, most importantly, and how I felt. But I also realized that the inflammation in my hands and in my body, my shoulders, my ankles, my toes, that inflammation was getting out of control. And I didn't know how bad I was until I realized and paid more attention to my health. I did know that I needed to make a change. While I quickly thought medications was the solution, I realized that medications also have horrible side effects. We've all seen that, and we've all experienced that. We see things like additional weight gain, depression, many other side effects that we have to deal with when taking medication. And if I was true to myself at that time, you know, I had to really just make the decision to make a personal change on how I ate and what I put the things that I put into my body, food and other things. And I realized that I had to make a shift. Diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, cancer, all run in my family. My mom passed at the age of 55 of breast cancer. My dad, who's 80 right now, is like barely walking. His diabetes is out of control. His sugar levels are spiking to 500 often. And blood pressures are always a concern for us. So when I see that, it hurts me. And it hurts that we as a Hispanic population don't put health as a priority. So I've met my amazing partner here, Brittany, who actually has taught me along the way how to make better decisions and how to educate myself on how to personally feed my body, fuel my body with the right resources, with healthier options, making better decisions. I can tell you this, I've been on the health program now for about 7 months, and I am feeling so much more energy. I'm feeling healthier about myself. I've actually met my successful weight loss of about 25 pounds, and I couldn't be more happier. I'm laughing more. My kids have felt it. My husband has felt it. And my inflammation gone. And it's because of what I'm eating and how I'm educating myself and fueling myself. I've gained the confidence that I lost, and I'm no longer suffering in silence. And that is what has compelled me to make a difference in my life. That's a little bit about my story in terms of why I needed to make a change. And I could not regret my decision of doing that. As I think about where we are in the world of today, if we move to slide 4, it is important that we ask ourselves, yes, we live in fast lives and we allow technology to really be a driving force for us, but why? What is the impact as a result of that? What is that eating of fast foods and those gadgets and conveniences doing to our lives? Quite frankly, we know that there are many things that are impacting us, such as adverse health.
because it's so easy to drive around and go to McDonald's or any fast food area and just pick up something to eat. But we also realize that, unfortunately, those are silent killers. They are actually impacting us tremendously. And we've got to pause and recognize that. In fact, as you think about it, this is the first generation who, when surveyed, responded that the quality of our lives has diminished over a previous generations. And with that, I ask, what is your reason to change now? What is your compelling reason to make that change? And are you ready to make it? Brittany, I know that you've got another amazing story to share about your health. And if we move to slide 5, the next slide, please. Next one. I'd love for you to just spend a few minutes sharing your story.
Thank you, Monica. Good morning, all of you beautiful people that are on here this morning. I am honored to share my story with you. I'm probably going to get emotional, so I'll warn you in advance. But my hope is that my story will compel you, just like Monica said, to have a clear reason to move forward in your health. Because without a clear reason and a compelling desire, it's going to be hard to avoid the silent killers. Okay, so I really want you to think about for just a second your own greatness and truly that you have the ability to create future health. My hope is that you will leave the conference today with the desire to create your own compelling why for your health. And we will be back, Monica and I are honored to be back again tomorrow, and we'll share with you some more tips to help you make some small steps toward lifelong change. But let's pause on that for just a moment and let me share with you my compelling why. Okay. So I have really come to understand my faith is really strong, and I've really come to understand what it says in Psalm 139 even more lately. We were created by our Father. He saw our unformed body and he ordained our days. They're written in his book. That's Psalm 139:16. And I truly believe that. But I didn't very much believe it or even understand it as far back as 2002, which is the picture that you see on the left. So what's happening here? I was 25 and I had let life run me over like so many of us do. And do you know, at 25, I was working so hard to be successful, working so hard to follow the just American dream and the way of being, that I found myself with polycystic ovaries and a blood clotting disorder. This is me overcoming open heart surgery. I nearly died. And I didn't realize it at the time, but God was creating a passion in me for health. I was a first grade teacher and I loved my students, but I just didn't have a firm grip on my life. I was overwhelmed. I was overworked. I was overstressed, and I was overweight. Fast forward, the pictures over there on the right. My son, Zeke, was born in 2015. I will tell you, God has been so amazing. One of the blessings of having polycystic ovaries was that I was not able to give birth to my own children. So I am blessed to be an adoptive mom of 3 incredible children. When Zeke was born, he's my second, we went to Florida for his birth. And I remember holding him. He was about a week old, and I knew something had to change. Because then I had also received before then, I had also received my 3rd diagnosis of lupus. I was scared. He was born. I waited 3 years to bring my amazing son home that God had given me. And I felt like if something didn't change, I would not be the mom that I knew I desperately wanted to be. So I want to pose a problem here for you. I was scared, but I didn't know what to do. And you might be feeling that way too. And on the left, I was trying to move away from what had already happened in 2002. And you see over here on the right, my current reality, that's what I wanted. I didn't understand the power of moving to a place of love for what's possible and away from fear. And I think more than anything right now, what has happened in our world has led us to see that we can let fear take hold of us and keep us stuck and keep us frozen. But that will not help us put down the Oreos. That will not help us avoid the peanut butter. That was one of my problems. You guys, we've heard so much about insulin and glucose and diabetes and all these things. And you guys, on any given day, in order for us to really take back control, we have to have a compelling reason. So I come to you this morning and I'm sharing with you, in 2015, I was scared, I was overweight, I had 3 diagnoses that I just wasn't certain of the future in any form or fashion, but I had in my arms a beautiful son. And now, because of what I found with this incredible program that I coach, now what I have found is incredible hope. Now what I'm excited about is chasing my son. Now what I'm excited about is getting out in the driveway and throwing the football with him. He is the most cutest, adorable kiddo. Monica has taken him on dates with her and her husband so he can get one-on-one time, because we got a lot of kids running around our house and all those things. But this is what it's worth for me. Showing up for him every day, feeling good, having energy, being excited about what's possible, jumping on the trampoline. Y'all, I'm 44. Who would have thought? So, you know, over there on the left, I was 38 when he was born. Now over here on the right, I'm 44. But it's really believing that things are possible. So you might be going, what in the world? How is this possible? What did you do? I know that's kind of what I started thinking when I saw my health coach. And so if we'll go to the next slide, I just want to share with you briefly. There's another picture of me with my amazing husband. And again, my transformation. And then on the next slide, what I really would love for you to see is how we can help you. Really what it takes, you guys, to move forward in your health is a comprehensive program. Diets don't work. 85% of people who go on a diet regain their weight within a few years. What does work, we even heard the Lieutenant Governor, Bethany Longhall, this morning. I love what she said about, you know, what we really want to consider is more than just, you know, a diet. And I don't remember her exact words, but I thought it was so good how she really compelled us to look at health as a comprehensive thing and to be full of knowledge, right? She talked about having knowledge. Knowledge is huge. So what we do with our clients is we come alongside them as a health coach. That's the first part, someone cheering you on. The second thing we do is we dial you into community. And one of the great things about COVID is it's helped us to figure out community virtually. So there's lots of great ways to be in community. I mean, here we are in Texas, and yet we're in community with you this morning. So we want to plug you into like-minded people. The third part is learning, just like we heard this morning from the Lieutenant Governor, learning, knowledge. So we walk alongside our clients with the Habits of Health system, which was written by a doctor who said, I don't want to just treat sickness. I want to help people create health, which is what we've heard from all these incredible doctors this morning. How do we create health? Well, you guys, it starts with taking hold of it with your why and saying, I'm going to be a student of health so that I can be healthy, right? If we learn about it and we empower ourselves with the knowledge, then we can do it. Anything we want to be good at, anything we want to get better at, we have to learn about it. We have to become a student of it. But it all ties back to why in the world would you, that compelling why. And finally, we set our clients up with a solid nutrition plan that meets them where they're at. And we think of food as fuel. We don't even call food food. We call it fuelings. Because what is the purpose of food, right? The purpose of food is to fuel our body, to make it go, so that we're creating the days and the best life we were meant to live. And so on the next slide, what I want to offer to you is the idea of macro habits. Where do you start? Where you start is you start gaining skills to create optimal health because you're focused on these 6 areas. We want to strive for healthy weight management. We want to strive for healthy eating and hydration, healthy motion, healthy sleep and energy management, healthy mind, and healthy surroundings. So it truly begins with, why in the world would I? And I will tell you guys now, I know, because it says in the good book, I know that we cannot enter the kingdom unless we are reborn to the Spirit. And I fully believe that our bodies are a temple for the Spirit. And so if I can focus on the habits within these 6 areas, I really can start creating my best life that He was called me to create. So as I wrap it up and quickly pass it back to Monica, what I would love to leave each and every one of you with is 2 things. We're going to come back tomorrow. I would love for you to sit down and have a conversation with yourself and maybe our Father in heaven and ask, what is that future version of me that I can obtain? What is that dream that is so clear and beautiful that I'm willing to put down the Oreos for to create, right? So what is that compelling reason? And the second thing is a really simple tip. I want you to start collecting some baseline data. I want you to start looking at the number of grams of sugar you eat every day. Just find out where you are. Just create awareness. And then we'll see what we can do to reduce it. So as I pass it back to Monica, you might be ready to have a conversation with someone about health right now. She's going to give you a tangible way to do that. And then we'll see you back tomorrow. Monica?
Brittany, thank you so much. And I am so excited to join you all tomorrow. As Brittany mentioned, she just touched on the 6 macro habits, but we're going to get deeper into that tomorrow. That's going to be our focus. To really understand the importance of these 6 macro habits and the impacts by implementing these into your life. Most importantly, in the meantime, as Brittany mentioned, if you have any desire to learn more, take your phone and open up your camera and point it towards the video. And as you do that, you will have a document pop up. Click on that document, complete just some basic information on yourself so that we can have health coaches reach out to you. We are so blessed to have been here with you all this morning and delighted to be able to share what we do and how we are committed to others and their health and how we can guide you along the way to a better, healthy life.
Thank you so very much, ladies. This has been wonderful. We got a comment from Miss Sharon Vester. She said, Octavia works. I used to be a coach, but I have fallen away off the wagon. Thank you to these 2 ladies for the reminder and encouragement to get back on the wagon and get more healthy for my grandchildren. Look at that. We also received a question, and it is, what exactly does a Octavia coach do? If either one of you can answer that question, we'd be grateful.
Yes, I'll start it. And Brittany, please feel free to chime in. So the beauty of our program is it is different from other nutritional programs. And we pride ourselves on the 4 areas of focus. Brittany shared that you have a dedicated health coach, but not just that. It's your health coaches that multiple health coaches to ensure that we are supporting our clients through their health journey and guiding them to ensure that they are, number 1, achieving their goals and addressing and answering any questions that they might have along the way. We are almost their cheerleaders as they meet their milestones and achieve what they want to achieve along the way. And what a blessing that is for us to be able to celebrate our clients as they walk their health journey. Secondly, it is about the resources that we offer. And these are just there for life. I can tell you that.
Yes.
And such a blessing to be able to refer to these resources throughout the journey. And we often do that as we are coaching our clients. Thirdly, the community has been powerful for us. And we walk beside a community that is strong spiritually, strong and have like-minded focus on getting healthy and putting health top of mind. And then lastly, of course, the nutritional plan, which is the feelings that Brittany shared. That sets us apart. That is what is different with our program. And that is what we are most proud of and desire to be there for anyone who wants to make a change in their lives.
Awesome. Awesome. Listen, we're going to have you back on tomorrow.
Awesome.
And we're going to get more into the conversation. And you all will have an opportunity to share more of your brand, your business, and how you can help many, many thousands, even Americans, hopefully millions of Americans.
Amen.
How we can get healthy and to maintain wellness. Again, I thank you so very much for your time and how you were able to share with us on today. God bless you, ladies.
Thank you.
God bless you. We have one more segment to go, just one more, and that is with Dr. Joan Coker. Dr. Coker graduated from Medical College of Ohio in 1993, and Dr. Coker is a medical doctor, and she specializes in the ear, nose, and throat, and she has a practice in Middletown, Delaware. She is truly a gift to the state of Delaware, a blessing to the body of Christ, and we are so pleased to have her at this time. She's going to talk about booster shots, COVID-19 booster shots, and what that means. And I think this is very important information that we need to share with the public, and she is the right person for that. So without further ado, let's bring on Dr. Coker. Hey, Dr. Coker, how you doing?
Hello, Reverend Chandler, and hello, everyone watching. Let me just say, this conference is amazing. Wow. You know, I'm here seeing patients, but I've been peeking my head in because I hear voices, because I have it on very low, just so I could hear where we were in the program. And I just keep popping my head in, and you have got a wonderful group of panelists arranged. And I just want to say congratulations, job well done.
Thank you.
It's been great. Now, I know I'm the only thing standing between the next session and lunch. So let's talk real quickly about boosters. I hate that we even have to have this discussion, but unfortunately we do. And the primary reason why we're talking about booster shots is because so many individuals have chosen not to get the vaccine, number one, number two, not Pfizer, not Moderna, not Johnson & Johnson, none of them. And as a result, we have the Delta variant. That is the most common variant across the United States. It is highly contagious. It is easily transmissible, and it is deadly. And so when the studies were done, and you all are getting something hot off the press because the FDA just approved this yesterday, as a matter of fact, they started talking about the booster shots, because what they did was they took healthcare professionals, and we all got our vaccines in December and January from 25 states. And they said, let's look at the antibody count of these individuals and see how it fares. And when they looked at the Pfizer count, after 4 months, many of us had gone from the 91% effectiveness to 77%. And because the Delta variant is so highly contagious and so aggressive, they thought it was a good idea that if you are at least the 6-month mark, or even many are saying the 8th month mark, that you should really consider getting a booster shot. So right now, Pfizer is the one that the FDA has approved for the booster shot. Yes, it is an emergency use. And so this is who qualifies: those that are 65 and older, and individuals that may be immunocompromised or have chronic disease. So we're talking about heart conditions, we're talking about autoimmune disorders, we're talking about those individuals that may be going through chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and as a result of those insults to the body, your immune system just doesn't work as well as it used to. So they are saying you should consider getting the booster shot as well. And then they're talking about folks that are in high traffic areas. So for those of us on the front line of this COVID pandemic, many in healthcare, some are even working at different stores, many are teachers. As a result of that, they said those that are in high flow areas also qualify. If you got the Pfizer vaccine and it's been more than 6 months, you should consider getting a booster shot. So that is unfortunately where we are. And the primary reason, as I mentioned, that we are here is because those that are being hospitalized at this point, those that are on the ventilator, about 98% are secondary to not being vaccinated at all. So it's very sad for us in the healthcare profession because we know that some of this could have been avoided. Are there breakthrough infections because the variant is so aggressive? Yep, there's breakthrough. The vaccine is not pixie dust. So it's not going to, you take it and you've been sprinkled. No, you can still get it. But what we all wanted to know is that I'm going to live. That's what you want to know. I'm going to live. I may not need hospitalization. I may not need a ventilator. And that's what gives us the ability to keep working, keep striving, keep trying to make a difference in the community without fear that we may take ourselves out in the process or take our family members out in the process. Because all of us in healthcare, we have families. We have parents that are aging. We have kids in our homes. And so while we're willing to do what we've taken an oath to do, it's very stressful right now when folks are coming in and they're very, very sick and they're in respiratory distress, and we are at capacity with ventilator support, and we are at capacity with rooms available. So you're in the hallway in respiratory distress because you've chosen not to be vaccinated. So it's difficult. And I think what's even more challenging for most of us are the children. And while adults, you can make the decision for yourself. Joan, I've never been a vaxxer. I've never done this. I'm a naturalist. I'm an herbalist. And I completely understand all of that. But what you've got to walk out is that young person in your life that doesn't have a choice yet. They're too young to be vaccinated. And if they're ill and you might not be able to be by their side in the intensive care unit because you're unvaccinated and they won't let you in the facility, you've got to be able to walk that whole thing out. And if you can walk out that your elderly, aging parent who got vaccinated, but because their immune response isn't as robust as it used to be, you accidentally took them out when you were just trying to give them a hug because you hadn't seen them in a little bit, you got to be able to walk that out. So I need to say this for the last time. It's not about you. The vaccine is not about you. The vaccine is about everyone around you, your neighbor, your family, your children. That's what this vaccine is all about. And yep, I'm not one who's ever gotten a flu shot, but I'm not going to miss it this year. And I didn't miss it last year because I don't want any reason to be in the emergency room at all at this time. I was on call this week. It's rough. I had a patient that I had to scope who was in respiratory distress and was on a gurney in the hallway because there was no room for her. Very, very sad. So that's where we are with the boosters. Moderna seems to be holding up at this point, and J&J, because it came out a little later. Right now, the research is still being done with that. But for those that have gotten the Pfizer shot 1 and 2, you simply need to present your vaccine card, or you can come without your vaccination card because you are in the system, no matter what state you're in the system. Just bring your identification and we can help you with the booster shot. Some doctors' offices are offering it. The National Medical Association here in Delaware, we are scrambling to get something up on a weekend so that we can work in our community because some people just don't feel comfortable going to the pharmacy to get a shot. I am in ear, nose, and throat and allergy. So we've done thousands of shots in our office because we know some folks are afraid of allergic reactions and they just feel better if physicians are present when they get their shot. So we're working to get that going. And it looks like the second week in October, we will be offering booster shots at the community education building in Delaware. And we're still working out all of the details, but I can tell you, we hear you, we feel you, we see you, and we will be there for you as we always have. And I'll be more than happy to take any questions if everyone hasn't gone to lunch at this point.
Dr. Coker, thank you so very much. This has been wonderful, a rich session. I love your commentary. I love your passion and your energy, and you give it to us straight, no chaser.
That's right.
And that is what's necessary. You said that, those who decide not to get vaccinated, you got to walk this thing out. If in the event your loved one gets sick and you could have been the reason why they got sick, or if they are in the hospital, you can't visit them, because you're not vaccinated. Those are some real issues.
Yes.
Real issues that people have to work out. And I also love what you said, that it's not about you.
Not at all.
You are part of a community, and the Bible is very clear. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. So I got to do what I need to do to protect my children, my parents, my loved ones, my community, my neighbors, everybody, because we all can rise up out of this if we work together as a human family. So thank you. Thank you so very much. We got one question from Miss Latanya Boyd. She says, do appointments need to be made to get the booster shot? Do you know that answer at this time?
That's a great question, Ms. Boyd. So my understanding is most pharmacies are requesting that you have an appointment, and they do have an online registration site. When we do the community education building, we are going to have a link where you can register, but we are also taking walk-ins because we know everybody's busy. Some people working 1 and 2 jobs. Some people don't have access to Wi-Fi. So we're going to make it simple. We will have a line for those that are registered, and we will have a walk-in line so that you just have your vaccine card and we'll get you vaccinated. Promise you that.
Thank you. Thank you very kindly, Dr. Coker, and I appreciate your time on today. It's truly been a blessing. We're getting ready now to wrap up. And you got another comment, Dr. Coker, that somebody's praying for you.
Oh, I appreciate it.
They're praying for all of the healthcare workers. That's important. And if you don't mind just staying on for just a moment, I'm going to close us out with a word of prayer. Thank you to everyone for your attendance today for our HealthNUT virtual conference. I pray that it has been informational and educational for you. If you haven't already, please feel free to drop a offering. You can give to our Cash App as well as our Givelify. And let me tell you what we're doing with these funds. We are using those funds to feed families, Delawareans, and there has been so many needs since this pandemic. And this is just another opportunity for us to give as a community and then recycle those funds back into the community by feeding families nutritious meals. So please, please give. We're going to close out with a word of prayer, and I ask that you would join me by bowing your heads. Thank you, Lord, for the visionary leadership of Mr. Adrian Howard, who truly was inspired by the Holy Spirit to bring people together to discuss best practices in healthy living. Thank you for every presenter, our bishop, the Lieutenant Governor Bethany How Long, for educating, equipping, and empowering us to take authority over our health. Thank you for Dr. Coker and Dr. Scantleberry and Mr. Morris and Miss Vasquez and Miss Whitworth. Thank you so much for all who have shared on today. We are mindful of the scripture in 1 Corinthians 3:16 that says, don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that the Spirit of God dwells in your midst? May we take care of our temples in a way that pleases you. This day, we choose to live healthier and to eat better. This day, we choose to take preventative measures. This day, we will take our health and the health of others seriously. With your help, we will be able to do all things through Christ who gives us strength. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We will see you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on tomorrow, and we look forward to sharing with you. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you, Dr. Coker.
Thank you, Pastor Chandler. Great job. Thank you.
you.